There is knowledge not meant for the masses, truths kept in the silence of temples and the whispers of initiates, knowledge so potent that its simple revelation has the power to alter the very fabric of reality. You have not arrived at this audiobook by chance. You have been guided by a longing in your own soul, by the persistent feeling that the world you see is not the whole truth. You have found the key to a hidden manuscript. This is the 33rd degree forbidden codex. The moment you choose to listen to these words, you are not simply learning. You are participating in a ritual. You are breaking the seal. The seal of the illusion that has kept you believing you are a victim of circumstances, that reality is solid, external, and unchangeable. Throughout the verses of this codex, you will not find complex theories. You will find the operational principles of creation, the laws that consciousness uses to give shape to energy. You will discover that the universe is not something that happens to you, but something that responds to you. And you will learn to give it the right commands so it bends to your soul's vision. The knowledge you are about to receive cannot be unlearned. Once the seal is broken, reality is never the same again. The initiation begins now. Chapter 1, the first verse. The universe is an echo, you have broken the seal. The forbidden codex opens before you, its invisible pages vibrating with an ancient energy. The first great principle, the law upon which all others are built, is revealed to your consciousness. It is a description of the fundamental nature of reality, and it reads, "The universe is an echo. Forget everything you have been taught about a solid, external, and separate world. That is the great illusion, the dream from which you are about to awaken. The truth that this codex reveals is that the world you experience is not an independent entity. It is a reflection, a perfect, impersonal, and absolutely faithful echo of the signal that you are emitting every instant. Imagine you are in the center of a vast, silent valley surrounded by sacred mountains. Every word you speak, every sound you emit is returned to you by the mountains with impeccable precision. The valley does not judge your words. It does not edit them. It does not decide whether you like what you hear or not. It simply reflects. Your consciousness is the one that emits the sound. Your state of being, the sum of your dominant thoughts, beliefs, and emotions, is the song you sing in the silence of your soul. And the universe, this great valley of echoes, is the one that reflects it. If your song is one of fear and scarcity, the echo you will hear will be that of the circumstances of fear and scarcity. If your song is one of love and certainty, the echo that will return to you will be that of the opportunities of love and certainty. The initiate in the knowledge of this codex understands that he cannot change the echo. Trying to fight against the circumstances of his life is as useless as shouting at the mountain to stop repeating his words. The only place of power, the only point of creation is the source of the sound. To become a master of reality, you must first become a master of the song you sing. The three frequencies of the soul's voice, the song of your being, the signal you send to the valley, is composed of three fundamental frequencies that intertwine to create your unique vibrational signature. The frequency of thought, the melody. Your habitual thoughts are the melody of your song. They are the notes you choose to play, consciously or unconsciously, throughout your day. Every thought is a vibration, a cause. A thought of criticism toward yourself or others is a dissonant note, a frequency that can only attract an echo of judgment and conflict. A thought of gratitude is a harmonious note, a frequency that tunes into the universe's blessings. A thought of worry is a melody of fear, a score that teaches the universe the music of failure that it must perform for you. The initiate knows that his inner dialogue is not a private monologue. It is a constant rehearsal with the cosmic orchestra. The frequency of belief, the underlying harmony. If thoughts are the melody, your subconscious beliefs are the harmony, the chord structure upon which that melody is played. A belief is a thought that has been practiced so many times that it has become an automatic truth, a program that runs in the background. You can try to play a cheerful melody of "I am prosperous," but if the underlying harmony, your root belief is "I don't deserve it," the resulting song will inevitably be melancholic and dissonant. The echo will reflect the harmony, not the superficial melody. These beliefs are the great themes of your life's symphony. The I, belief in scarcity, is a minor key harmony that colors every thought about money with a note of anxiety. The belief in unworthiness is a dissonant chord that sabotages every opportunity for love or success. The belief in confidence and a benevolent universe is a major harmony that turns even challenges into growth opportunities. These beliefs are the slowest and most powerful vibrations of your being. Changing them is like retuning the thickest string of a piano. It requires intention, repetition, and time. But once the new fundamental note is tuned, all the music of your life changes with it. The frequency of emotion, the volume and power. Finally, if thought is the note and belief is the harmony, emotion is the volume and power with which the music is played. It is the singer's breath, the percussionist's force. A thought without emotion is a whisper that barely creates an echo. A thought charged with the power of a deep emotion is a shout that can make the mountains tremble. It is feeling that gives your thoughts their power of manifestation. The universe, in its essence, is energy, and it responds more forcefully to the most potent energetic signal. Emotion is the fuel of the creation rocket. You can have a thought of your desire, but if the emotion that accompanies it is doubt or longing, the true signal you are sending is that of absence, and the echo will be more absence. But when you combine the thought of your desire with the emotion of its fulfillment, joy, relief, gratitude, you are emitting the most coherent and potent signal possible. You are singing the song of reality already manifested, and the Valley of Echoes has no choice but to give you back that same melody. The initiate in the knowledge of the codex does not try to compose a new song blindly. First, he must become a master of listening. He must learn to hear the music he has been playing unconsciously. The first practice, the art of sacred listening. The fundamental practice is that of non-judgmental self-observation. The initiate sits in silence, not to stop his thoughts but to listen to them. He becomes a musicologist of his own consciousness. He listens to the melody. He pays attention to his inner dialogue. What are the phrases, the melodies that repeat over and over? Is it the melody of worry, of self-criticism, of complaint? He simply writes them in his journal, not to judge them, but to become aware of the score he has been playing. He feels the harmony. He brings his attention to his body. What is the habitual emotional climate? A background tension, a heaviness of sadness, a constant nervousness. This is the underlying harmony. This act of conscious listening is the first and most important step. It is the act of turning on the light in the projection booth. For the first time, you are not the actor in the movie. You are the director who is observing what movie has been playing. The second practice, the composition of the new symphony. Once he has listened to the old song, the master takes the pen and the score. He begins the art of deliberate composition. He chooses the new melody, the thought. The initiate chooses, with a clear intention, the new melody he wishes to perform. This melody often takes the form of an affirmation or a decree. Not "I want to be prosperous," the melody is "Abundance is my natural state." He chooses the new harmony, the belief. He knows that the melody needs a new chord structure, and he works to install a new belief, one that supports his new song. He injects the power, the emotion, and here comes the act of magic. The master does not just think about his new song. He feels it. He uses his imagination to evoke the feeling of the wish already fulfilled. If his song is one of abundance, he bathes in the feeling of security, of freedom, of gratitude. He is literally breathing the breath of life into his new composition. The third practice, the daily rehearsal. A song, no matter how beautiful, does not become the symphony of a life with a single performance. It must be rehearsed over and over again until the orchestra, his subconscious mind, knows it by heart. The initiate's practice is that of daily rehearsal. Every morning he takes 10 to 15 minutes to rehearse his new symphony. He enters a state of meditation, and in that stillness, he begins to play his new inner music. He holds the thought of his desire. He feels the emotion of its fulfillment. He immerses himself in the state of being of the person who is already living in that reality. He is not asking. He is not waiting. He is being, and with each rehearsal, he is strengthening the new neural pathways. He is retraining his orchestra. He is emitting a new and coherent signal to the Valley of Echoes. And he knows with unshakable faith that if he persists in singing the new song within him, the echo that the universe returns will have no choice but to be equally magnificent. Chapter 2. The second verse, the frequency of the soul. This is the principle of vibration. The ancient wisdom encapsulated in the Kybalion declares it with a thundering simplicity. Nothing rests. Everything moves. Everything vibrates. Modern science, in its brave journey to the heart of matter, has arrived after centuries of research at the same inescapable conclusion. It has dismantled the universe of our five senses and has discovered that at the deepest level, solid objects do not exist. The chair you sit in, the table in front of you, the walls of this room and your own body, everything you perceive as solid, stable and separate is, in reality, a vast and uninterrupted ocean of energy. It is a dizzying whirlwind of atoms, which are in turn vortices of subatomic particles that are not things, but packets of information, waves of probability dancing in a field of infinite potentiality. Solidity is an illusion of our senses, an interpretation of our brain that is not sharp enough to perceive this high-speed quantum dance. The universe is not a collection of static objects. It is a symphony of constantly changing frequencies. And you, as a center of consciousness, are not a passive spectator of this symphony. You are one of the most powerful and complex instruments in the entire orchestra. The human instrument, the frequency emitter, the great revelation of this second verse, the one that changes the game completely, is that your power of attraction, your ability to manifest, does not reside in the lyrics of your thoughts, but in the music of your being. Imagine two people who want to manifest prosperity. The first, whom we will call the logician, has studied the techniques. Every morning he sits and repeats the thought, the lyrics of his desire all day long. I am rich, I am prosperous, money flows to me. It is an impeccable, grammatically perfect affirmation. But while he repeats it, his inner state, his music, is one of fear, of anxiety about debts, of envy toward those who have more. He feels the contraction in his stomach. His song is an optimistic melody performed by an out-of-tune, gloomy and tense orchestra. The second person, whom we will call the musician, may not repeat as many formal affirmations, but he dedicates time every day to deliberately cultivating the feeling of gratitude for what he already has, the feeling of security in his body, and a genuine generosity of spirit. His inner music is harmonious, coherent and expansive. His song may have simple lyrics, but the orchestra that performs it is magnificent. Now, ask yourself, to whom do you think the universe, the great conductor who only understands music and vibration, will respond with more force? The universe is deaf to your words if they are not backed by the vibration of your feeling. It is your dominant frequency, your habitual state of being that constitutes your true prayer, your true decree. The thought is the blueprint. The emotion is the energy that builds the building. To become a master of reality, you must stop being a simple lyricist and become a composer and conductor. You must understand how your personal frequency is composed, amplified, and emitted. The heart's frequency, the soul's amplifier. If thoughts are the individual notes on the score, emotions are the volume, tone, and intensity with which they are played. They are the music itself, and the great amplifier of your being. The radio station that broadcasts your song to the universe with astonishing power is your heart. As the cutting-edge science of the Heart Math Institute has shown, the human heart generates the most powerful and extensive electromagnetic field in the body. It is approximately 60 times greater in electrical amplitude and more than 5,000 times stronger in magnetic power than the field generated by the brain. This is not a metaphor. It is a physical measurement. Your heart is literally a transmitter of formidable power. This is your true energetic signature. And the information that this field transmits, the quality of your radio broadcast, is determined moment by moment by your emotional state. The frequency of fear and anxiety is chaotic, fast, irregular, and incoherent. It's like a radio station broadcasting pure static, an alarm signal. When you emit this frequency, by the law of resonance, you can only tune into events, people, and circumstances that vibrate in that same band of chaos, danger, and stress. It is a self-fulfilling prophecy. The frequency of anger and resentment is heavy, dense, and of low vibration. It's like a deep, distorted, and persistent note that makes the foundations tremble unpleasantly. By emitting it, you become a magnet for conflicts, power struggles, and situations that seem to validate your bitterness and your sense of injustice. The frequency of love and gratitude, on the other hand, is coherent, smooth, harmonious, and expansive. The rhythm of your heart, measured on an electrocardiogram, becomes a perfect and beautiful sine wave. It's like a perfectly tuned chord that resonates with a crystalline clarity. When you emit this frequency, you become a magnet for grace, synchronicity, unexpected help, creative solutions, and loving relationships. The universe does not respond to the lyrics of your song, your superficial thoughts. It responds to the music of your heart, your dominant emotional vibration. The law of attraction as sympathetic resonance. With this understanding, the famous and often misinterpreted law of attraction ceases to be a magical concept and reveals itself as a principle of physics. As predictable as gravity, resonance. Imagine again two identical tuning forks tuned to the same note placed in a room. If you strike the first and make it vibrate, the invisible sound wave travels through the space. It does not affect a chair or a table or a tuning fork of a different note. But when that wave reaches the second tuning fork, its vibrational twin, the latter without being touched, will begin to vibrate out of sympathy, emitting the same note. It will resonate with the first. You are the first tuning fork. Your sustained vibrational state is the note you emit. The quantum field, with all its infinite possibilities, health, disease, abundance, scarcity, love, conflict, is like a room full of billions of tuning forks, each tuned to a different frequency. When you clearly and coherently sustain a frequency in your being, the frequency of radiant health, deep love, joyful abundance, reality has no choice but to begin to vibrate at that same frequency. The tuning forks of the right opportunities, people, and resources activate through resonance and begin to sound in your experience, organizing the particles of existence to correspond with your inner music. You don't attract what you want with your mind. You attract what you are with your vibration. This is the second law. It is the physics of the soul. And now that you understand it, you are ready to enter the workshop and become the master tuner of your own instrument. The second verse, the frequency of the soul, part 2 of 2. The physics of the soul. You understand that you are a composer and an instrument, constantly emitting a vibrational symphony that shapes your reality. You know that the key is not the lyrics, but the music. Not the thought, but the feeling. Now we move from theory to practice. We enter the conscious composer's workshop, because a musician does not become a master just by understanding music theory. He becomes a master through daily practice, through the act of tuning his instrument and rehearsing the melodies he wishes to perform. The following 3 practices are the disciplines of the vibrational alchemist. They are the tools with which you stop being an unconscious emitter, at the mercy of your moods, and become the deliberate conductor of your own orchestra. The first practice, the vibrational audit, the art of listening to yourself. The composer's first act is not to play a new note, but to honestly listen to the one that is already playing. Most of us are so immersed in the noise of our minds and the outside world that we have no idea what our habitual background note is. The practice of the vibrational audit is one of somatic and non-judgmental self-observation. The protocol. Several times a day, set a silent alarm or use a natural transition, like ending a call or getting up from your chair, as your reminder. In that moment, pause for 30 seconds, close your eyes, ignore the story your mind is telling, and bring all your attention to your body. And ask yourself the musician's question, what is my frequency right now? Am I in a state of expansion or contraction? Reading the instrument. Your body is the most precise meter of your vibration. Contraction is the physical signature of low-frequency vibrations. It feels like a tightness in the chest, a knot in the stomach, shoulders hunched forward, a tight jaw. It is the biological posture of defense, of fear, of anger, of scarcity. It is dissonance. Expansion is the signature of high-frequency vibrations. It feels like an opening in the heart, a feeling of lightness in the body, deep abdominal breathing, a relaxation in the facial muscles. It is the biological posture of safety, of love, of gratitude, of confidence. It is harmony, the alchemy. This simple check-in is an act of mastery. You don't judge the note. You don't criticize yourself for being in a state of contraction. You simply recognize it with the neutrality of a musician tuning his guitar. Interesting. The third string is a little flat, Awareness by itself is the first step of transformation. The second practice, the art of transmutation, the master note of gratitude. Once you have recognized a dissonant note, a vibration of contraction, the amateur musician makes a fatal mistake. He fights it. He tries to force himself to be positive and to repress the negative emotion. He knows that resisting a note is like trying to stop a vibration with your hands. The friction only amplifies it. The master, instead, practices the art of vibrational transmutation. He knows that the fastest and most elegant way to change his vibration is not by fighting the negative emotion, but by deliberately introducing a positive emotion of a higher, more potent frequency that, through resonance, harmonizes the dissonance. And the most potent note in the universe, the master chord that has the power to dissolve almost any dissonance, is gratitude, the protocol. When you feel the contraction of fear or frustration, do not focus on the fear. That only feeds it. Instead, withdraw your attention from the story that is causing the fear and bring it to the deliberate search for one thing for which you can feel genuine gratitude at this precise instant. It doesn't have to be something grand. Start with the simplest, most undeniable thing. Gratitude for your next breath. Gratitude for the chair that holds you. Gratitude for the miracle of your eyes that can see the light. Gratitude for a happy memory, for the face of a loved one, for your pet. Find one thing and immerse yourself in the feeling of that gratitude. Feel how that emotion has a different quality. It is warm, it is expansive, it is gentle, the alchemy. Now breathe into that feeling. Allow the warmth of that high frequency to begin to expand from your heart outward, like a ripple in a pond. And observe with the curiosity of an alchemist how this vibration of gratitude begins to dissolve from within the contractive cold of fear. You have not fought the darkness. You have turned on a light. The third practice, harmonic immersion, the art of energetic hygiene. Finally, the master knows that for a new frequency to become his natural, dominant state, he must protect it. He must bathe in it. He becomes a conscious curator of his own vibrational environment. His practice is that of energetic hygiene. The protocol. The initiate deliberately chooses the music he listens to, the conversations he participates in, the content he consumes, the places he frequents, and the people he spends his time with, based on a simple question. Does this raise my frequency or lower it? Audit your information diet. Review your social media subscriptions, the news channels you watch, the podcasts you listen to. Do they leave you feeling inspired, empowered, and at peace? Or do they leave you feeling anxious, indignant, and lacking? Become a ruthless guardian of the doors of your mind. Evaluate your social circle. People are the most potent tuning forks in our environment. Spend time with people whose music resonates with the symphony you want to compose. People who talk about possibilities, not problems. Who celebrate success, not envy. Who radiate gratitude, not complaint. Harmonize your physical space. Your home and workplace are resonance fields. Clutter, dirt, and objects that bring back bad memories maintain a low, stagnant vibration. The act of cleaning, tidying up, playing high-frequency music, lighting incense, or having living plants is not just decoration. It is an act of tuning your environment to support you in maintaining your desired note. The master immerses himself in environments and relationships that resonate with the new symphony he has chosen to compose. He knows that his environment is a set of tuning forks that can help him maintain the note or can completely detune him. He chooses wisely. Chapter 3. The third verse. The Creator's Eye Now. You feel the power of your own vibration. You know that your inner music resonates on the outside. But a question floats in the silence of your new consciousness, a question that takes you to the next level of mastery. Who directs the symphony? What force takes the formless vibration of potentiality and weaves it into the tapestry of the reality you experience? What is the exact mechanism through which your inner song becomes the outer world? To understand this, we must close the eyes of the body and open our inner eye, the eye of consciousness. We must decipher the third verse, the law that reveals our role not as simple instruments, but as orchestra conductors of the universe. And the verse, whispered by mystics and shouted by quantum physicists, goes like this. Reality awaits the gaze of an observer to be born. This is the quantum observer principle, the secret of the Creator's eye. the invisible weaver and the ghost world, we live under a deep, collective hypnosis, the belief in an objective world. Since birth, we are taught that reality exists out there, solid, predefined, immutable, and independent of us. We are taught that our eyes simply record, like a passive camera, a world that is already complete. In this model, we are mere spectators, reacting to a script already written. But modern science, in its search for the ultimate truth, delved into the heart of the atom and, in doing so, peeked into the very loom of creation. And what it discovered shook the foundations of material reality. It discovered that the world, at its most fundamental level, is not a finished tapestry. It is an infinite set of threads of potentiality, suspended in the void, a quantum soup of all possibilities existing simultaneously in a latent state. Subatomic particles, electrons, photons, the very building blocks of reality, are not things until we observe them. Before being observed, they exist in a state of superposition, like a ghost that is at once everything and nothing. They are not in a specific place. They are in all possible places at once. They are a pure probability wave. The universe before your gaze is a dream. It is pure potential. It is a ghost world that awaits the breath of consciousness to solidify into a form. The double-slit experiment, the sacred parable of creation. To understand how your consciousness shapes this dream, we don't need complex mathematical equations. We need a story, a parable, the most famous, most elegant, and most mysterious experiment in all of science, which we will not analyze as a physics lesson, but as a sacred text that reveals your divine power. It is the double-slit experiment. Imagine a physics temple. At one end, a cannon that shoots the smallest particles of matter, electrons. In the middle, a wall with two small vertical slits. And at the back, a detection screen that will record where the electrons hit. If you shoot small marbles through the slits, the result is obvious and predictable. You will see two lines of impacts on the screen, one behind each slit. Now the physicists, the high priests of matter, decided to perform this experiment with the divine messengers, the electrons. And here the parable begins. The first act, the unobserved God. In the first act, the scientists shot the electrons without any kind of observer. They did not place any detectors at the slits to watch which one they passed through. They let the divinity dance in the dark, unseen. And the result that appeared on the screen was impossible, magical, and defied all logic. Two lines did not appear. An interference pattern appeared, a series of many lines, identical to the pattern a water wave creates when it passes through two openings. This could only mean one thing, a truth that made the foundations of the material world tremble. The single electron, when not observed, ceased to behave like a particle, a marble, and revealed its true divine nature. It behaved like a wave of potentiality. Somehow it passed through both slits at once and interfered with itself. It was existing in a state of anything is possible. The screen did not show where the electron had been. It showed the fingerprint of its pure potential, the signature of an unobserved God. The second act, the Creator's gaze. In the second act of the parable, the scientists, perplexed and fascinated, decided to do what every creator does. They decided to look. They placed a delicate detector at the slits, an electronic eye designed to observe and record which one each electron actually passed through. They turned on the flashlight of consciousness. They turned on the Creator's eye, and here is where reality folded in on itself. Here is where the universe revealed its most intimate secret. At the precise instant the electron was observed, its behavior changed radically. The magic vanished, and normal reality appeared. The electron stopped being a wave of potentiality. It collapsed into a defined particle, chose a side, passed through a single slit, and the pattern on the screen reverted to that of two simple and predictable lines, like those of the marbles. Let's pause here to absorb the implication of this, because it is the heart of the entire codex. The simple act of consciousness, the act of observing, is not a passive act of recording. It is a creative act of choosing. Consciousness does not see reality. It actively participates in its birth. It is the midwife of matter. That detector in the experiment initiate is you. Your focused attention is the force that takes the infinite wave of possibilities from the quantum field and collapses it into a particle of tangible experience in your life. The third verse deciphered, the participatory universe. The third verse deciphered tells us this: you do not live in a pre-existing universe that you discover. You live in a participatory universe that you co-create every instant. And your consciousness is the main creative agent. You are not simply observing the movie of your life. You are the light of the projector. The quantum field is the infinite film roll, which contains every possible scene, every possible timeline, every possible version of yourself. Your consciousness, your focused attention, clears the beam of light that illuminates a single frame of that infinite roll and projects it onto the three-dimensional screen of space-time, turning it into the only visible image into your present reality. When your attention is unfocused, when you operate on autopilot, your projector is stuck, projecting the same old frames of your past, of your conditioning, of your fears over and over again. That is why life seems to repeat itself. But when you take conscious control of your attention, you become the director of the movie. You can stop the projection, navigate the infinite role of potentiality, deliberately choose a new frame, that of health, of abundance, of love, and illuminate it with the light of your sustained focus until that new scene becomes your projected reality. We have deciphered the third verse. We have seen the irrefutable proof that consciousness is not a passive spectator of reality. It is its co-creator. The creator's eye, your own focused attention, is the force that turns energy into matter, possibility into actuality. The first practice, the art of deliberate observation, the director's decree. The master knows that his attention is the most precise tool, the most valuable currency with which he sculpts reality. Therefore, he refuses to allow the focus of his consciousness to wander randomly like an uncontrolled projector, illuminating the probabilities of fear and scarcity. He directs it with the precision of a surgeon and the authority of a sovereign. The daily blueprint, the morning directive. The initiate's practice begins every morning, in the stillness of his inner workshop. Before the outside world bombards him with its demands, he sets the directive for his own perceptual filter. In his meditation, he does not ask. He does not beg. He declares his observation. He knows that he has a guardian at the portal of his perception, known as the reticular activation system. This guardian, without instructions, defaults to only letting in information that matches past beliefs and survival threats. The initiate, as director, gives his guardian a new mission every morning. With a clear intention, he declares, "Today, my consciousness is a magnet for creative solutions. Today, I choose to observe and collapse the reality of synchronicity and flow. Today, my inner eye seeks and finds evidence of abundance everywhere." This is my directive. This is not an act of positive thinking. It is a direct command to his own system. He is handing his consciousness its mission for the day, and the guardian, like a faithful servant, will begin to filter the infinite amount of data from the external world to present him only with what matches the director's directive. As if. Observation, the quantum reframe. The master learns to look at his current reality, which he knows is only an echo of his past observations, through the lens of his desired future. He does not deny the reality of the five senses, but he refuses to give it his creative power. This is the practice of quantum reframing. It is an act of withdrawing your energy from the appearance of the problem and reinvesting it in the truth of the solution. When looking at an unexpected bill, the untrained observer collapses the reality of deficit and scarcity. The master, on the other hand, looks at the same bill and chooses to observe it as proof of the flow of energy, as an echo of the abundance that is already on its way. He does not deny the fact, but he changes the observation about the fact. Faced with a conflict with another person, the accidental observer collapses the reality of attack and injustice. The master chooses to observe the situation as an opportunity to practice unconditional peace, or as a mirror showing me a part of myself that needs healing. Faced with a physical symptom, the default observer collapses the reality of illness. The master chooses to observe the sensation as my body's intelligence, communicating with me, or as energy in the process of recalibration toward perfect health. This is not a game of semantics. It is an act of power. You are withdrawing your attention, your spotlight, from the movie of the problem and deliberately focusing it on the frame of the solution. And what you illuminate with your observation is what you collapse into your experience. The second practice, the vibrational tuning of the gaze, charging the projector. The master understands that observation, by itself, is only half of the equation. The detector in the double-slit experiment collapses the particle, but it does not determine the quality of that particle. For your observation to be powerfully creative, it must be charged with a frequency, with an energy. The quantum field does not respond to a cold analytical gaze. It responds to an ardent heart. Your practice, therefore, is to infuse your observation with the feeling of the wish fulfilled. As we learned in the second verse, emotion is the music the universe hears. It is the magnetic signature that gives your vision its power of attraction. Therefore, the initiate fuses the Creator's eye, the third verse, with the soul's frequency, the second verse. The fusion protocol. In your inner workshop, in your daily meditation, you perform this sacred fusion. Generate the frequency. First, use the tools you already know. Through heart breathing and emotional evocation, you generate in your body the feeling of your wish already fulfilled. Don't just think it, feel it. Feel the gratitude, the relief, the freedom, the joy. Become the music. Hold the image. Now, while maintaining that vibration in your heart, bring to the screen of your mind the clear, simple image of your vision. Hold the image with the eye of your Creator, with a serene and stable focus. Perform the fusion. Imagine that the radiant and coherent energy emanating from your heart rises as a beam of light and fuses with the image in your mind. Observe how the image, which was perhaps just a simple photograph before, now becomes three-dimensional, vibrant, luminous, charged with life by the energy of your feeling. The alchemy. This emotion-charged observation is the most coherent and potent signal you can send to the quantum field. The clear image, your thought, your vision, is the electrical coordinate that tells the universe what to collapse. The elevated emotion, your feeling, is the magnetic charge that tells it with what force and speed to collapse it. You are combining direction with power, the blueprint with the energy. You are operating as a true master creator. You have deciphered the third verse of the codex in its entirety, both in its theory and in its practice. You are no longer a victim of a random universe that happens to you. You are the sovereign observer, who with the gaze of his consciousness shapes the dream of existence. Your attention is not a passive act. It is the most potent creative force in the cosmos. Every moment of your day is a choice. What reality do I choose to observe and therefore collapse into my experience now? The reality of fear or of love, of scarcity or of abundance, of conflict or of peace. Chapter 4. The pen of imagination. The creator's eye needs a script. The projector's light needs a movie. The architect needs a blueprint, and the tool with which that blueprint is drawn, the one that shapes the light and writes the script, is the most magical, most divine, and most underestimated faculty of the human being. We must now learn to wield the pen of imagination, the scribe of God, the creative faculty, the untrained mind, hypnotized by the world of the five senses, has relegated imagination to the corner of children and artists. It sees it as a form of fantasy, a useless daydreaming that takes us away from the hard, solid, real life. We have been taught that to be a dreamer is to be impractical, to be naive. And this belief, this programming, has been the greatest act of sabotage perpetrated against human power, because the initiate in the knowledge of the codex knows the truth. Imagination is not an escape from reality. It is the workshop where reality is built. Every great human achievement, from the most imposing cathedral to the rocket that travels to the stars, from the symphony that moves the soul to the technology that connects the world, first existed, and sometimes for years, as a clear and sustained image in someone's imagination. Imagination is not a fantasy. It is the quantum simulator of consciousness. It is the womb where spirit takes form. It is the portal through which invisible potential becomes a tangible possibility. To wield this power, we must make a crucial distinction. Fantasy is passive. It is a movie we watch in our minds, often without control. A stream of images that entertains us, frightens us, or serves as an anesthetic to escape from a reality we don't like. The fantasist is a prisoner who dreams of freedom. Creative imagination is active. It is the disciplined, focused, and deliberate act of building a mental scene with a clear purpose. It is not watching a movie. It is directing it, writing it, starring in it, and feeling it in every fiber of your being. The one who imagines is the architect who designs the tunnel to reach that freedom. The codex reveals that our imagination is our direct connection to the universal mind, to the great architect of the cosmos. It is the faculty through which the images of God, divine ideas, and pure potentials can be channeled and adapted to our individual experience. You are not simply a dreamer who invents things out of nothing. You are, in essence, a scribe in the great library of creation, with the power to take universal ideas and write, with the pen of your imagination, the next chapter of your own life, the metaphysics of the imaginal act, the science of creation. The power of imagination is not a superstition. It is a law of the mind, a process that operates through precise mechanisms, a technology of consciousness that we can learn to master. The subconscious thinks in images. Your subconscious mind, that faithful and all-powerful servant we have talked about, that genie of the lamp who obeys your commands, does not understand the language of abstract logic. Its native language is that of images, symbols, and above all, feelings. You can repeat the affirmation, "I am prosperous," 1,000 times, but if the image you hold in your mind is of bills piling up, and the sensation in your body is of anxiety, your subconscious will completely ignore your words. It will obey the image and the feeling, because that is the clearest and most potent command. The image is the blueprint. The words are just the description of the blueprint. The builder always follows the blueprint. A vivid, detailed, and sustained imaginal act is the clearest, most direct, and most irrefutable command you can give to your subconscious. It is a command it cannot misunderstand. Each imaginal act is a seed you plant in the fertile garden of your subconscious mind. And the subconscious, like the earth, does not judge the seed. It doesn't care if you plant a seed of success or a seed of failure. Its only loyal function is to make it grow with perfect fidelity. The law of the mental equivalent, a fundamental principle of metaphysics, one of the operational laws of creation, is the law of the mental equivalent. This law states with elegant simplicity that you cannot experience something in your physical reality until you have first created its equivalent, its prototype in your mind. You cannot attract wealth if your mind is full of images and feelings of scarcity. You cannot attract love if your consciousness is saturated with images of loneliness and distrust. The universe cannot deliver a package for which you do not have a mental and vibrational address. The act of disciplined imagination is the process of deliberately building that mental equivalent. It's like a sculptor who creates a perfect mold. Once the mental mold, clear, precise, and charged with feeling, has been created and held with faith, the universal substance, the energy of the quantum field, has no choice but to pour into it and solidify into that exact form. Therefore, the practice of imagination is not an act of asking or wishing. It is an act of construction. You are manufacturing on the causal plane the mold that physical reality is obligated to fill, the neurological and biochemical reality of rehearsal. And if metaphysics seems too ethereal to you, modern science has validated this ancestral wisdom with overwhelming evidence. Your brain does not clearly distinguish between a real experience and a vividly imagined one. When you perform an act in your imagination, you are activating the same neural circuits, the same synaptic networks that would activate if you were performing the action physically. When a pianist imagines playing a complex piece, his motor cortex lights up in the same way as if his fingers were actually on the keys. When an Olympic athlete visualizes the perfect race, he is training his muscles and nervous system for that performance, creating a muscle memory without moving. When you, in the theater of your mind, rehearse the experience of your wish fulfilled, you are not simply dreaming. You are rewiring your brain. You are building the neural superhighways of your new personality and your new reality. You are creating a memory of the future, and once the brain has a memory, it treats it as a fact and will do everything possible to recreate the experience that generated it, because familiarity equals security. Furthermore, your body, which is the physical expression of your subconscious, responds to these images instantly. When you imagine your success, your body produces the chemistry of confidence and joy, dopamine, serotonin. When you imagine your healing, your body can release endorphins and reduce stress hormones. You are teaching your body at a cellular level how your new reality feels. You are moving from a biochemistry of survival and stress to a biochemistry of success and creation. You are literally inhabiting your future in the present. The first practice, the forging of the perfect scene, the workshop of the divine director. The master knows that clarity is power. Energy follows intention, and a vague intention can only produce a vague result. Before entering the theater of his mind for the nightly projection, he first defines, in his waking state, the exact scene he is going to rehearse. And to forge this scene, he follows 4 fundamental and unshakable laws. The law of the end, the art of implication. The master never, ever visualizes the process. He never imagines the how he will get to his desire. He knows that is the work of the subconscious and of universal intelligence, and that his attempt to dictate the logistics is an interference, an act of doubt. Imagining the process, the call, the negotiation, the journey, invites the logical mind to introduce thousands of variables and possible points of failure, creating a weak and anxiety-filled energetic signal. Instead, the initiate transports himself, with a quantum leap of consciousness, directly to the end. He chooses a short, simple, and powerful scene that implies his desire has already been fulfilled. If his desire is a new leadership position, he doesn't imagine the job interview. He imagines the moment, a week after getting the job, when a trusted colleague shakes his hand and says, "Congratulations, I knew you'd get it. You're doing an incredible job." If his desire is physical healing, he doesn't visualize surgeries or treatments. He imagines himself performing an activity he loves and couldn't do before. Running on the beach, lifting a grandchild in his arms, and feeling the wave of gratitude and vitality in his body. The final scene is the declaration that the how has already been solved by a higher intelligence. It is the purest act of faith, the law of the first person, the art of embodiment. This is the most common mistake of the beginner. He sees his scene as if he were watching a movie about himself. He observes a he or a she on the screen of his mind succeeding. This is a passive fantasy, not an active creation. It creates a separation between the observer and the experience. The initiate knows that he must be the protagonist. The scene is always lived through his own eyes. You don't see yourself driving your dream car. You feel your hands on the leather steering wheel. You see the dashboard through your own eyes. You feel the acceleration in your back. You don't see yourself receiving a hug. You feel that person's arms around you. You smell their perfume. You feel the warmth of their body against yours. Living the scene in the first person is what turns it from an image into a neurological experience. It is the key to tricking the brain into believing the event is already real. The law of sensory richness, the art of giving flesh to the ghost. A thought is a ghost. The magician knows that for the subconscious, the mind of the body, to accept an idea, it must be given flesh and bones. The scene must be sensorially rich and dense. Before your practice, define the details. Sight, what exactly do I see? The colors, the shapes, the faces. Hearing, what specific sounds do I hear? Voices, music, the sound of the wind? A peaceful silence. Touch, what do I feel on my skin? The temperature of the air? The texture of a fabric? The weight of an object in my hand? Smell and taste. Are there any distinctive aromas or flavors? The smell of freshly baked bread, the taste of celebratory wine, the scent of rain on the earth. The more sensory details you can weave into your 10-second scene, the more real and convincing it will be for your nervous system. You are building a memory, and memories are made of sensations. The law of feeling, the seal of Amen. Finally, we come to the alchemical ingredient, the fire that melts the image into the subconscious. The scene is the mold. Feeling is the molten metal that fills it. An image without feeling is a blueprint without energy, a command without authority. The goal of the entire practice is not to see an image, but to generate the feeling of the wish fulfilled. While living your sensory scene, ask yourself, what would be the predominant feeling if this were real right now? Often it is not an overflowing euphoria. It is a deeper, more serene feeling. It is relief. The deep exhale of knowing that the struggle is over. It is gratitude, the overflow of the heart upon recognizing the blessing. It is naturalness. The calm of feeling that at last everything is in its right place. This feeling is the vibrational signature of your creation. It is the seal of Amen that tells the universe and your subconscious, it is done. The second practice, the nightly writing, subconscious impregnation. The master scribe knows that there is a time of day when the parchment of the subconscious is most receptive, a time when the guardian of the logical and critical mind lowers its defenses. It is the hypnagogic state, that magical, drowsy portal between waking and sleeping. Every night you prepare for your most important writing ritual. The protocol. You lie down in bed. You completely relax your body, from your toes to your head. You let go of the day's worries. And once you feel that the logical mind is beginning to doze off, when your thoughts become more fluid and dreamlike, you begin the projection. The sensory loop. You don't force it. With a gentle, effortless intention, you enter your short, perfect scene, the one you have already forged with the 4 laws. You live it in the first person with all your senses, focusing on generating the feeling of the wish fulfilled. You feel the texture of the signed document. You hear the word of congratulations. You feel the wave of gratitude in your chest, the soul's lullaby, and then the curtain falls. You return to the beginning of the brief scene and repeat it, gently over and over. Like a lullaby you sing to yourself. Like a soft sensory mantra, the goal is not to stay awake, but to fall asleep inside the scene. Let the feeling of your wish fulfilled be the last thing your consciousness experiences before entering the realm of sleep. This act of impregnating the subconscious mind just before sleep is, perhaps, the most potent act of manifestation there is. It is handing the finished and sealed blueprint to the master builder just before he begins his 8-hour shift of building your world. The pen of imagination is no longer a tool of fantasy. It is the most powerful writing instrument in the universe, the direct interface with the subconscious mind and the quantum field. You have learned to be the scribe of your own epic. You have learned to draw the blueprint, write the script, and create memories of a future that now is inevitable. Chapter 5. The Ink of Feeling Now. We come to the most dynamic, most potent, and most essential force in the entire creative process. The rational mind, trained in the cold logic of the profane world, often despises emotion. It sees it as an enemy of clarity, as a chaotic, primitive, and volatile force that must be controlled, suppressed, or ignored. But the initiate in the codex knows the profound truth. Emotion is not the enemy of creation. It is its sacred fuel. A thought without emotion is an engine without gasoline, a perfect but inert work of engineering. A vision without feeling is a seed of the highest quality planted in the dead soil of the desert. It is emotion, the deliberately cultivated feeling, that takes an abstract idea and turns it into a magnetic force, into an irrefutable command that the universe in its totality cannot ignore. The alchemical ink, emotion as the substance of creation. To understand why feeling is the true creative power, we must remember the vibrational nature of reality, as revealed in the second verse. The universe is not a field of objects, but an ocean of frequencies, and your emotional state is the frequency you are transmitting, consciously or unconsciously, to that ocean every second of your existence. The vibrational signature. Every emotion has a unique vibrational signature. Fear, anger, guilt, and frustration are low, chaotic, and incoherent frequencies. They are like a radio station broadcasting pure static. Love, gratitude, joy, and peace are high-ordered and harmonious frequencies. They are a clear, powerful, and crystalline signal. The law of resonance dictates that the universe, as a perfect receiver, can only tune into and materialize in your experience the dominant frequency that you are emitting. Your thoughts may be trying to spell the word abundance, but if your heart is transmitting the static of fear of scarcity, fear is the only music the cosmos will hear and reflect. The heart's transmission. Modern science has begun to validate this ancestral wisdom. The HeartMath Institute has shown that the human heart generates an electromagnetic field that is up to 5,000 times more powerful than the brain's. This field is your true energetic signature, your sphere of influence in the quantum field, and the information this field transmits is determined moment by moment by your emotional state. When you feel emotions of gratitude and appreciation, your heart rhythm becomes coherent, creating a smooth and harmonious wave. This coherent signal not only tells every cell in your body to enter a mode of repair and growth, it also emits a powerful signal of order and harmony to the quantum field, acting as a magnet that organizes the energy around you. Your heart is the great central sun of your system. Your brain is a planet that orbits around it, deeply influenced by its light and gravity. The language of the subconscious, your subconscious mind, the master builder who translates your invisible blueprints into physical reality, is the emotional mind. It doesn't understand the complex language of logic, but it understands the language of feeling perfectly. An emotion is a direct, visceral, and non-verbal command. Trying to convince your subconscious of your new reality with words is like describing the color red to a blind person. Making it feel the warmth and passion of red is giving it a direct experience it cannot misinterpret. Feeling the joy of your wish fulfilled is the fastest and most effective way to convince your subconscious that this reality is already a fact, forcing it to mobilize all its vast resources to align the outer world with this new inner truth. The initiate, therefore, knows that his job is not just to think about his vision. His job is to color it. It is to take the black and white image of his imagination and paint it with the vibrant, saturated colors of the emotion of the wish fulfilled, until the image ceases to be a drawing and becomes a living, breathing landscape in the workshop of his soul. The anatomy of creative emotion, inks of shadow and inks of gold. Not all emotions, not all inks are equal in their creative power. The scribe must learn to differentiate the inks that blur the parchment from those that consecrate it. There are two categories, emotions born of lack and those born of wholeness. Emotions of lack, the ink of the shadow. These are emotions like longing, intense desire, need, or hope. Although they seem positive and directed toward your goal, energetically they are born from the perception that you don't have what you want. Longing is the prayer of absence. When you long for something, you are vibrating at the frequency of its lack in your life. It is a beautiful but painful energy that tells the universe, this thing I love is not here. Need is a gripping vibration, a contracted energy that repels what it seeks. It is the frequency of the beggar, not the king. It tells the universe, I am empty without this, reinforcing the emptiness. Hope, as we saw, is an admission of doubt. It is the possibility of failure made emotion. These shadow inks, while they may give you an initial impulse, create resistance and keep your desire at a vibrational distance. They are the engine of pursuit, not of attraction. Emotions of wholeness, the golden ink. These are the inks of the master. They are the emotions you would naturally experience if your wish were already an accomplished fact. They are the ones you must learn to generate and cultivate in your inner workshop, because they are the ones that correspond to the frequency of the already manifested reality. The three most potent, the three primary colors of the golden ink are gratitude. This is the frequency of reception. It is the unequivocal feeling of, thank you because it is already mine. Gratitude is the universe's Amen. It is the emotional signature that closes the contract between your vision and its manifestation. It is the most magnetic and coherent ink of all, because it is impossible to feel genuine gratitude and a sense of lack at the same time. It completely dissolves doubt, joy, relief. This is the vibration of freedom. It is the expansive sensation of the problem solved, of the weight lifted from your shoulders, of the struggle ended. It is the silent celebration of success. Feeling relief now is the fastest way to signal to the universe that the conflict has ended, and that the new, harmonious reality has begun. Love appreciation. This is the frequency of unity, the fundamental vibration of the cosmos itself. It is loving your creation, appreciating the beauty of your vision, feeling a deep love for the you who already lives in that reality. Love is the most harmonious force in the universe. It dissolves all resistance, heals all incoherence, and aligns your vision with the creative power of the source. The art of the scribe, the discipline of the magician, is to learn to generate these emotions of wholeness at will. It is to sit in your workshop, close your eyes to the world of appearances, and with the pen of your imagination, use the golden ink of these feelings to write, over and over again, on the parchment of your heart, the story of your wish fulfilled, until that story becomes your one and only true reality. The first practice, the somatic door, the body as an alchemical instrument. The master knows that emotion is not an abstract concept floating in the mind. It is an experience that lives in the body. Emotion is energy in motion, emotion. To change his emotion, He doesn't start by fighting the thoughts in his head. He starts by changing the posture and rhythm of his physical vehicle. His practice is to use physiology to generate psychology. The breath of expansion, the alchemist's bellows. Your practice begins with your breath. Breath is the bridge between the visible and invisible worlds. It is the tool with which you regulate your nervous system. You know that low-vibration emotions, fear, sadness, anxiety, produce shallow, fast, and chest-level breathing. It is the breathing of a cornered animal. High-vibration emotions, joy, peace, love, are associated with deep, slow, and diaphragmatic breathing. It is the breathing of the sage at rest. To change your state, you don't wait for emotion to change your breath. You use your breath to change your emotion. The initiate simply begins to breathe slowly, deeply, and rhythmically. He feels his abdomen expand gently on the inhale and contract on the exhale. This simple conscious act is a direct command to your vagus nerve, the sacred cord that connects your brain to your organs. It tells your system, the threat has passed. The environment is safe, and the chemistry of calm acetylcholine begins to flow, preparing the fertile ground for a high-yield emotional investment, the power pose, the geometry of confidence. The initiate understands that his posture is a biochemical declaration. Your body and mind are in a constant feedback loop. A fearful mind hunches the body, but a hunched body also teaches the mind to be afraid. The alchemist breaks this loop from the body. He stands. He plants his feet firmly on the ground, feeling the connection to the earth. He straightens his back, not with rigidity but with a relaxed dignity. He rolls his shoulders back, opening the center of his heart to the universe. He lifts his chin slightly, in a gesture of silent sovereignty. He holds this posture for 2 minutes, breathing deeply. This is not an act of arrogance, but of neurological reprogramming. It is an act of conscious biofeedback. He is ordering his body to produce the exact chemistry of power and certainty, increasing testosterone, decreasing cortisol, before he has an external reason to feel that way. He is physically embodying his future self, sending the clearest possible signal that change has already begun. The second practice, the resonance chamber of memory, the emotional vault. Once the body is prepared, the alchemist looks for the active ingredient, the pure emotion. The master understands that his past is not a sentence that chains him, but a vast library of emotional frequencies, a vault he can access at will. To color his vision of the future, he often borrows the most vibrant and pure colors from his past. This is the practice of selective emotional memory, the evocation protocol. In the stillness of your inner workshop, begin with the breath of expansion to calm your system. The asset selection, choose the exact emotion. The golden ink, you need to impregnate your vision. Let's say it's the feeling of triumph and achievement. The vault search, you become an archaeologist of your own life. You scan your vast memory library for a moment, no matter how small or distant, in which you felt that emotion purely and potently. Do not look for a contaminated asset, a success that was also tinged with stress. Look for a pure gold ingot. Perhaps the feeling of triumph is found in the memory of winning a sports competition in your youth, of receiving a good grade on a difficult exam, of completing a project you were immensely proud of, or even the simple, pure triumph of learning to ride a bicycle, the immersive re-experience. Once you have found the memory, do not just think about it. Immerse yourself in it. Use the pen of imagination to reconstruct the scene in the first person. Say what you saw. Hear the applause or the words of encouragement. Feel the sun on your skin or the accelerated beating of your heart. The goal is to recreate the biochemistry of that moment in your body now, the alchemical extraction. As the emotion of triumph begins to grow in your body, you perform the key move of the alchemist. You let go of the story, but you retain the feeling. You release the specific details of the memory, the trophy, the exam, the bicycle, and keep only the pure sensation, the naked vibration of the achievement. You have distilled the essential oil of the emotion, the projection, and it is this pure and potent vibration that you now project onto your vision of the future. You take the energy of a past triumph and use it as fuel to power the creation of a future triumph. You are closing a power circuit, proving to yourself that the feeling of success is not something foreign, but a state you already know and can generate at will. The third practice, the catalyst of art, vibrational environmental engineering. Finally, the initiate knows that, in addition to generating emotions internally, he can use his environment as a powerful ally. Sound and image are shortcuts, catalysts that can change his emotional state in seconds. He becomes a conscious curator of his own vibrational environment. His practice is to create vibrational anchors, symphonies of the soul. The master no longer consumes art passively. He uses it as a precise tuning tool. He creates specific playlists, his symphonies, designed to evoke concrete states. He has his symphony of courage, full of epic and powerful music that makes him feel invincible, and he listens to it before an important presentation or a difficult decision. He has his symphony of gratitude, full of soft, beautiful, and moving melodies, which he uses to deepen his morning gratitude practice. He has his symphony of creative flow, perhaps minimalist electronic or Baroque classical music, which helps him enter a state of deep concentration. He becomes the DJ of his own soul, deliberately choosing the soundtrack of his creation. The emotional vision board. The initiate creates a vision board, but his criterion for choosing images is not just what he wants to have, but how he wants to feel. His board is not full of objects, it is full of emotions. Instead of a photo of an expensive car, he chooses an image of an open road that evokes a visceral sense of freedom. Instead of a photo of a mansion, he chooses an image of a cozy cabin with a fireplace that makes him feel a deep sense of peace and security. Instead of photos of luxury watches, he chooses images of people laughing, connecting, that evoke the emotion of joy and connection. He places this board in a visible place, and he uses it not as a reminder of his goals, but as a visual tuning fork. With a single glance, he can tune his frequency back to the emotional state he has chosen. As his home, the ink of feeling has been created. Your pen of imagination no longer draws invisible, lifeless blueprints. It now writes with a liquid golden fire that the universe cannot ignore. Chapter 6. The Word of Decree. At the heart of almost all the great mystical and world creation traditions, from ancient Egypt to the Vedas of India, lies a deep and often veiled truth. The universe was created through a sound, a vibration, a word. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God, the Gospel of John tells us. The Sanskrit word Om is considered the primordial vibration, the cosmic hum from which all creation emanates. The ancient Aramaic word abracadabra, which we have relegated to a children's magic trick, actually means I create while I speak. These are not simple poetic myths. They are instruction manuals for the physics of consciousness. They teach us a truth that has been deliberately forgotten in our materialistic age. The word, language, is not a passive tool we use to describe a pre-existing reality. It is the active tool, the magic wand, with which we create reality. A thought or an image is energy in a potential state. An emotion is that same energy in motion, in a magnetic state. But a spoken word is energy that has been given a definitive form, a crystalline structure, and a physical vibration in the world. It is a crystallized thought. It is a feeling anchored in matter. It is a decree. It is a spell you cast into the field of reality with every phrase you utter. The physics of a spoken decree, the magic wand of the voice. To understand why your voice is a magic wand, we must analyze how a spoken decree works on the three planes of your being: the neurological, the vibrational, and the subconscious. The neurological impact, the seal in the brain. When you simply think an affirmation, you activate certain neural networks in your brain. It is a purely mental act, but when you take that affirmation and speak it, the process becomes exponentially more powerful and more real to your brain. By speaking, you not only activate the thought centers, but you also activate Broca's area, the speech production center, the motor cortex to move your lips, tongue and vocal cords, and crucially, the auditory cortex, by listening to yourself speak the truth. You are creating a complete multisensory feedback loop. Your brain not only thinks the idea, but it formulates it, physically articulates it, emits it as a vibration, and hears it back as a truth confirmed by an external source, your own voice. This process creates a much richer and more total experience, imprinting the new neural groove with much greater depth and speed. You are demonstrating to your brain, through physical action and sensory perception, that this new idea is not a simple fantasy, but an important directive that should be taken seriously. The vibrational impact, the sculpture of water. Every word you utter is a sound, and every sound is a vibration that travels through the air, but its journey does not stop at your eardrums. These sound waves penetrate every cell of your body. Your body, composed of more than 70% water, is a perfect resonance medium. The fascinating experiments of cymatics, which show how sound creates complex and ordered geometric patterns in sand or water, give us a literal glimpse of this principle. Your words are the chants that sculpt the geometry of the water of your own being. When you speak words of fear, complaint, or criticism, you are emitting a chaotic and dissonant frequency that generates patterns of disorder in your energy field and in your biology, creating the chemistry of stress. When you speak words of love, power, gratitude, and certainty, you are emitting a coherent and harmonious frequency. You are literally singing a song of order to your cells, calming your nervous system, and aligning your field with the symmetrical forces of creation. The subconscious impact, sovereign hypnosis. Your subconscious mind is deeply influenced by what it hears repeatedly, especially from a voice it considers an authority. During your childhood, that authority was your parents, your teachers, society. Their words, repeated over and over, became the programs that run your life. Now in your adult life, the voice of greatest authority for your subconscious is and always will be your own. When you speak with conviction and feeling, your subconscious does not perceive it as a suggestion or a desire. It perceives it as a direct command from the captain of the ship. You are in effect hypnotizing yourself. You are assuming the role of the programmer, and your own voice becomes the programming language that rewrites your internal code, overwriting the old programs of limitation with new directives of power. The supreme decree, the atomic power of I am. Within the vast universe of language, there are two words that, when united, contain unparalleled creative power. They are the master command, the declaration of the first cause, the nuclear formula of manifestation. They are the words I am. In the Judeo-Christian tradition, when Moses is asked for the name of God in the burning bush, the answer is I am that I am. The Vedantists of India teach that the ultimate realization is the recognition of the I am as pure, immutable consciousness, the Atman. When you utter the words I am, you are not simply describing a temporary attribute. You are invoking the creative power of the universe and declaring your own divinity. You are speaking not to God, but as God. You are declaring your identity as an individualized expression of the universal mind, of the first cause. The subconscious mind is absolutely literal and has no sense of humor. Whatever you put after the sacred formula I am, it accepts it as an accomplished fact about your fundamental identity, and it immediately gets to work to align your external reality with that declared identity. We have used this power against ourselves our entire lives, casting spells of limitation without realizing it. I am so clumsy, a command to create clumsiness and accidents. I am a financial disaster, a decree to manifest scarcity and financial chaos. I am like this. I will never change, a life sentence. That locks you in the prison of the past. I am always tired, a direct instruction for your body to generate chronic fatigue. The first act of mastery is to become a fierce guardian of these two words. It is to refuse with iron discipline to put anything after I am that you do not wish to see manifested as your permanent reality. And the second step, the act of the conscious creator, is to use them deliberately and strategically to forge your new reality. The I am affirmations are the most powerful because they are not about what you want to have. They are about who you choose to be. Instead of I want to have more confidence, you declare with authority, I am absolute and sovereign confidence. Instead of I want to heal my body, you declare from the end, I am the perfect expression of radiant health and infinite vitality. Instead of I want to get rich, you declare your inherent nature. I am an irresistible magnet for unlimited abundance and divine prosperity. By doing this, you stop being a seeker who chases a state. You dress in the cloak of that state. You embody the new identity. And by the law of reflection, your outer world, like a faithful servant, must mold itself to reflect the new truth you have declared about yourself. Your subconscious mind is a servant that lives in an eternal now. It does not understand the concept of tomorrow or someday. For the subconscious, the future is always not now. When you affirm, I am going to be rich or I am going to be healed, you are giving it a clear and precise command to keep wealth and healing always in the future. Always one step away, always on the unreachable horizon. You are unintentionally decreeing perpetual pursuit. The conscious magician never ever speaks in the future tense. He speaks in the absolute present. He does not say, I'm going to be, because that is the confession that he is not. He declares, I am. Instead of I'm going to find the perfect job, the decree is, I am irresistibly attracted to the perfect job for me, now. Instead of I'm going to be healthy, the decree is, I am the perfect embodiment of radiant health and infinite vitality. Now, the now is not an optional word. It is the temporal seal. It is the way to anchor your desire in the only reality your subconscious knows, in the only moment when creation can occur, the eternal now. 2. The law of positivity, the language of creation. Your subconscious does not process negatives. It's like an incredibly literal and powerful search engine. If you tell it, don't think of a pink elephant, what is the image your mind creates instantly? A pink elephant. The subconscious operates with images and concepts, not with the logic of exclusion. The word no is invisible to it. It only sees the image that follows it. When you affirm, I don't want to be sick, the keyword, the image that your subconscious evokes and reacts to, is sick. When you say, I don't want to be in debt, the word that resonates and vibrates within you is debt. You are, unintentionally, focusing your immense creative power on what you don't want, watering the weeds in your garden with the water of your attention. The master always formulates his decrees in positive and affirmative terms. He does not declare what he wants to avoid. He declares what he chooses to create. Instead of I don't want to be sick, the decree is, I claim and embody my vibrant and perfect health now. Instead of I don't want to be in debt, the decree is, I live in a state of unlimited abundance, and all my needs are more than met. Instead of I don't want to feel lonely, the decree is, I am a magnet for divine love and harmonious relationships. Always speak the language of presence, not absence. The law of emotion, the heart seal. A word without feeling is a body without a soul. It is a whispered command without authority, a check without funds. It is emotion, feeling that gives your decree its magnetic power. It is the fire that seals the command in the wax of the subconscious. It is the golden ink that makes your writing visible. The initiate does not repeat his affirmations like a robot, mechanically and emptily. First, he enters the feeling of the wish fulfilled. Before declaring, I am abundance, he takes a moment to use the tools of the emotional alchemist. Through his breath and imagination, he evokes the sensation of abundance. What would it feel like to have no financial worries? It would feel like relief, like freedom, like peace, like an expansive generosity. And it is from that inner state, from that already achieved vibration, that he pronounces the words. Now, the words are not a hope. They are the verbal description of his inner state. The word and the feeling have become one. The law of conviction, the signature of faith. Finally, the decree must be pronounced with unshakable faith. Faith in this context is not a religious hope. It is the certainty of the engineer who operates with a law he knows is infallible. When you flip a light switch, you don't hope the light will turn on. You have the certainty that it will, because you trust in the law of electricity. In the same way, the master pronounces his decree, not with the hope that it will work, but with the serene and calm confidence that he is setting in motion a mental and vibrational law as real as electricity. His tone of voice is not one of supplication, begging, or doubt. It is a tone of quiet command. It is the voice of the sovereign who knows that his word is law in his kingdom. It is certainty that gives your words their weight and their final authority. The ritual of the spoken word, anchoring the word in the world, the master does not cast his spells randomly. He creates a ritual. He knows that repetition, ceremony, and focused intention are what engrave the command in the depths of the subconscious and announce it to the quantum field with maximum power. The morning decree, the day's tuning. The master begins his day by declaring the law for his day. Before the world can impose its chaotic story on him, he imposes his own. In his dawn ritual, after his meditation and visualization, he chooses his main decree for the day, and repeats it with feeling, setting the tonic note for the symphony of his next few hours, the mirror ritual, the dialogue with divinity. The initiate stands in front of the mirror. He knows that the mirror does not just reflect his physical face, but is a symbolic portal to his subconscious, to his deep self. He looks deeply into his own eyes beyond the surface and speaks to the divinity that resides within him. He declares his I am truth not to the reflection, but to the presence that looks through those eyes. It is an act of deep self-hypnosis and of recognizing his own power. The written decree, the personal grimoire. The master knows that writing is the act of anchoring an ethereal thought on the physical plane. He turns his journal into a personal grimoire, a book of power. On its pages he writes his decrees, not as an exercise in repetition, but as the solemn act of writing a new law in the book of his life. The movement of his hand, the ink on the paper, creates a neurological and physical anchor that reinforces the command to his subconscious. You have deciphered the 6th verse of the codex. Your word is no longer an empty sound. It is a creative force, a seal that imprints your will on the formless substance of the universe. You are no longer a victim of your language. You have become its master. And with this mastery, you have completed the tools of the divine scribe. Chapter 7. Deciphering time. Our perception of reality is governed by a silent tyranny, a jailer so omnipresent that we have forgotten we are in a prison. It is the belief in linear time. We have been conditioned, from the moment we learned to speak, to see existence as a single, unchangeable straight line that extends from a fixed, already written past, through a fleeting present that we can barely touch, toward an uncertain, predetermined future. We live, suffer, and die trapped on this single train track. The past in this tyranny is a burden we cannot escape. Our mistakes, our wounds, our stories become the ineludible cause of our present. We define ourselves by it, creating a self-fulfilling prophecy. I am this way because of what happened to me. Memory becomes an anchor that prevents us from sailing to new waters. The future is a destiny that awaits us, something we must chase, fear, or wait for. Our happiness, our wholeness is always up ahead on the line. I'll be happy when I'll be at peace when I retire. This projection robs us of the life of the only moment we truly possess, and the present in this view shrinks to a fleeting, almost non-existent instant. It is a simple and anxious bridge between the weight of the past and the anxiety for the future. We don't live it. We rush through it in our eagerness to arrive at that illusory future. This perception of time is the source of most of our suffering. It keeps us in a state of perpetual waiting, of fighting against what was, and of longing for what is not yet. But the initiate in the secrets of the codex learns to see through this veil. He takes off the mind's clock, and he discovers the most liberating truth of all, one that mystics have taught for eons, and that the most advanced theoretical physics is beginning to glimpse with awe. Linear time is a perceptual illusion. Creation is finished. The mystical verse, the great 20th century metaphysical master, Neville Goddard, taught one of the most radical and powerful ideas, a key verse in our codex, a truth that once accepted changes everything. The teaching is this: creation is already finished. What does this mean? It means that every possible reality, every possible event, every possible version of your life, that of your most glorious success and that of your most bitter failure, is not something you will create in the future. It already exists right now, as a completed potentiality, as a vibrational state, in the infinite mind of the universe, in the quantum field. The universe is not a novel being written, word by word with an uncertain ending. It is an infinite, multidimensional library. In this library, all possible books have already been written and occupy a place on its shelves. There is the book of your life lived in absolute poverty, and right next to it, the book of your same life lived in unimaginable wealth. There is the book where you die young from an illness, and the book where you live to be 100 with radiant health. There is the book of your life of loneliness, and that of your life of deep love. Every possible version of your reality is a book, a complete story that already exists. Creation is complete. Your consciousness is the librarian. You are the only one with the access card to this infinite library, and your life is simply the sequence of books you choose to take off the shelf, open and read. By focusing your attention on a book, you activate it, you bring it into your three-dimensional experience, you live it. From this perspective, regret becomes illogical. You cannot change the pages of the book you have already read, but you are also not condemned to reread it over and over again. Anxiety about the future also dissolves. You don't have to worry about whether the book of your success will exist. It already exists. It has already been written. It is on the shelf waiting. Your only power, and it is an absolute power, lies in your ability in this very instant to return the book you don't like to the shelf and choose what book you are going to read now. The block universe. The scientific echo, this mystical vision, which might seem like a fantasy, finds a fascinating echo in the block universe theory of theoretical physics, an idea that arises as one of the most solid interpretations of Einstein's theory of relativity. This theory posits that the past, present, and future all exist simultaneously. Time does not flow from one moment to the next like a river. Rather, the entire space-time continuum exists as a four-dimensional block, complete and immutable. The most common metaphor is that of a movie. Imagine a movie on an old roll of film. The entire film, the beginning, the middle, and the end, exists simultaneously on that roll. Each frame is in its place. Our experience of time is simply the light of the projector that illuminates a single frame at a time, creating the illusion of a sequence, of a movement, of an unfolding narrative. But the frame of tomorrow is as real and already exists on the roll as the frame of yesterday. In this view, your consciousness is the light of the projector, and your present moment is the frame you are choosing to illuminate with that light. You have been illuminating out of habit the frames that follow a predictable sequence based on the past. But theoretically, as the projector, you have the ability to jump to any other frame in the film. The power of the present moment, the portal of creation. If we accept this astonishing possibility, if all time exists simultaneously, then a truth of immense power is revealed. The past is not behind us, and the future is not ahead. They are simply other coordinates on the map of the block universe, other sections of the film roll, other books in the library. This means that you cannot change your life by acting in the future, because the future is not a place you arrive at. The only point of power, the only place from which you can operate, the only frame you can change is the now. The present moment is the portal. It is the projection booth. It is the reading room of the library. It is the only place from which you can withdraw your light from an unwanted frame and direct it toward a new one. You don't create a new future from scratch. You choose a different future that already exists, and you bring it into your present through the power of your perception, your imagination, and your feeling. You tune into the frequency of that book, and the pages begin to appear in your experience. We have deciphered the most enigmatic verse of the codex. We have understood that time is not a line but a field, that creation is finished, and that all realities coexist in the eternal now, that you are not a prisoner of a single timeline, but the librarian of infinite possibilities. But how do we use this mind-bending revelation? How do you travel through this library of realities? How do you change the movie that is being projected, not in theory, but in the practice of our daily life? The first practice, the alchemical art of revision, healing the past. The master, knowing that the past is not fixed, but is a book in the library. A vibrational file that continues to emit its frequency in the present, learns the art of revision, not to change the historical facts in an act of self-deception, but to change their meaning and their energetic impact on the present. A past wound is a vibrational anchor that keeps you tied to a port of pain. Revision is the act of cutting that anchor. His practice is that of the soul editor, the nightly editing protocol. The most powerful time for revision is the drowsy state before sleep, the portal to the subconscious. Lie down and completely relax your body. Enter a state of calm and receptivity. The projection. Choose a scene from your day or your recent past that did not go as you wished. An angry conversation, a mistake you made at work, bad news you received. Project this scene onto the screen of your mind once, from beginning to end, like a director reviewing raw footage. Don't linger on the pain. Observe it with detachment. The director's cut. Now rewind the film to the moment just before things went wrong. And here you perform the act of magic. Shout cut. Pause the scene. The rewrite. As the sovereign director of your reality, rewrite the script. If the conversation was angry, rewrite it as a dialogue of mutual understanding and empathy. If you made a mistake, rewrite the scene as performing the task perfectly. If the bad news was a no, rewrite the scene as hearing an enthusiastic yes. The healing loop. Now play this new scene, the revised perfect version, in a short loop. Repeat it over and over, but don't do it mechanically. The goal is to charge it with feeling. Feel the genuine hug of reconciliation. Feel the surge of pride and satisfaction for a job well done. Feel the deep relief and joy of the good news. Repeat this revised scene, charging it with all the feeling you can muster, until it feels more vivid and more real than the original fact. Fall asleep in the middle of this new movie. The alchemy. What does this achieve? You have performed a quantum surgery. You have replaced a memory that planted a seed of resentment, failure, or fear in your subconscious with a new memory that plants a seed of harmony, success, and peace. You are not changing the facts of the past, but you are changing their vibrational impact on your present. You are taking away the past's power to dictate its prophecies on the future. You are healing at a causal level. The second practice, the assumption of the future in the now, embodying the future. The master does not wait for the desired future to arrive. He does not chase it. He brings it into the present through the portal of his imagination. This is the practice of living in the end, the technique of assumption. It is the act of deliberately choosing a book from the library and starting to read it so intensely that its pages become your reality. The embodiment protocol, the choice of the book. In the stillness of your meditation, be absolutely clear about the future you choose to experience, not as a vague desire but as a specific scene that implies its fulfillment. Total sensory immersion. Close your eyes to the world of the senses, to the book you have been reading out of habit, and open the eyes of your soul to the new book you have chosen. Do not just think about your future success. Become that person now. Feel the weight of the pen with which you sign the contract that secures your financial freedom. Smell the fresh ink on the paper. Hear the sound of the keys to your new house turning in the lock. Feel the coolness of the metal in your hand. Smell the salty air of the ocean on the trip you have always dreamed of taking. Feel the breeze on your face. Taste the celebration dinner. Hear the laughter of your loved ones. The adoption of the identity. Most importantly, you bathe in the emotion of that future already present. Immerse yourself in the feeling of relief, gratitude, peace, and achievement. And from that state, have the inner conversations of the person who already lives there. You don't think, I wish I had money. You think how wonderful it is to have this freedom to be so generous. You don't think, I hope to find love. You think how deep the peace and connection I feel in this relationship is. The alchemy. By generating this state of being in the now, you are illuminating that specific frame on the film roll of time. You are tuning your tuning fork to the frequency of that reality. And by the law of resonance, the quantum field, which contains that reality as a probability wave, begins to collapse it around you. You are not creating a future. You are selecting one that already exists and becoming its vibrational equivalent, forcing it to manifest in your experience. The third practice, detachment from the clock, trusting in divine timing. Finally, the master learns to free himself from the tyranny of when. This is the final and most subtle discipline of the time traveler. Once he has revised his past and has assumed his future in the present, he completely lets go of the need to know when it will appear in the three-dimensional mirror. He understands that the obsession with time is a form of doubt. It is the voice of the ego that, after planting a seed, digs it up every 5 minutes to see if it is growing. It is the vibration of impatience, and it is a counter-command that tells the universe, I don't trust the process. The mental Sabbath practice, the master, after performing his imaginal act, enters the Sabbath, the sacred rest. His work is done. The book has been chosen. The scene has been projected. The seed has been planted. Now his only task is to trust in the laws of the universe, as infallible as the laws of agriculture. He lives his day-to-day life in a state of active patience and confident expectation. He does not anxiously look for signs. He does not question the process. He walks with the serene confidence of the farmer who, after sowing in the spring, does not worry about the harvest, but simply tends his field, knowing that the sun and the rain, in their own perfect timing, will cause the fruit to grow. He knows that the universe, in its infinite intelligence, is orchestrating the perfect sequence of events, the bridge of incidents that will lead him naturally, logically, and harmoniously to the physical embodiment of his vision. You have deciphered the 7th verse of the codex. Time is no longer your jailer. It is your library, your movie theater, your playground. The past is no longer a sentence. It is an editable file. And the future is no longer a distant hope. It is a present choice. Chapter 8. The Glyph of Abundance. The untrained mind, hypnotized by the world of appearances, makes a fundamental and tragic mistake in its search for prosperity. It chases the symbol, erroneously believing it to be the substance. Money in its many forms, paper bills, numbers on a screen, property titles, stocks on the market, is not wealth. It is the glyph, the symbol, the projected shadow, the visible echo of an invisible causal vibration. Chasing money is like an actor who, instead of deeply studying his character to embody him, obsesses solely over getting the right costume and props. It's like a singer who, instead of practicing his voice and his emotional connection to the music, dedicates himself to collecting the most expensive microphones. It is a fatal confusion of cause and effect. True wealth, the substance, is not something that is accumulated on the outside. It is a state of consciousness that is cultivated on the inside. It is the consciousness of abundance. It is the embodiment of security, freedom, and flow. And money, like a faithful and obedient servant, simply appears on the stage of your life as the natural and proportional reflection of that inner state. The work of the initiate in the codex is not to earn money. It is to transmute his own consciousness, turning the heavy lead of scarcity into the radiant gold of prosperity. The physical gold that appears in his life is simply the residue, the tangible proof that the inner alchemy has been a success. Deciphering the anti-glyph, poverty consciousness, to draw the new glyph of abundance on the parchment of our soul, we must first understand, with the precision of a master calligrapher, the crooked strokes of the anti-glyph that most of us have been unconsciously drawing our whole lives. We must decipher poverty consciousness. This consciousness, which projects a reality of scarcity, struggle, and perpetual insufficiency, is composed of 4 fundamental strokes, 4 root beliefs that act as a powerful spell of limitation in the subconscious mind. The stroke of scarcity, the lead of separation. This is the heaviest stroke, the foundation of the prison. It is the deep, often unconscious and inherited belief that we live in a zero-sum universe. It is the perception that wealth, opportunities, and resources are like a fixed-size pie. If someone takes a large piece, there is inevitably less for you. This perception, etched into our DNA by millennia of tribal survival, turns life into a fierce and anxious competition. It makes us see others not as creative partners, but as rivals in the struggle for limited resources. It generates envy at the success of others, because every victory of another is perceived on a subconscious level as our own loss. As one less piece of pie for us, it leads us to hoard and cling to the little we have, operating from the fear that it will run out. We save out of fear, not out of expansion. It makes us feel guilty for wanting more, as if our desire for a bigger piece would deprive others. A person who lives under the dominance of scarcity may consciously desire wealth, but their subconscious energy is one of contraction, defense, and fear. It is like trying to attract butterflies while building a glass wall around them. The universe, which is by nature a field of infinite abundance and unlimited potential, cannot deliver its gifts to a consciousness that is fundamentally closed and contracted. The stroke of unworthiness, the mercury of self-sabotage. This is the volatile stroke, the unstable poison that corrodes our creations from within. It is the subconscious feeling, often whispered in the voice of a parent or a childhood experience, that I don't deserve it. It is the personal poison that tells us we are not good, smart, disciplined, or lucky enough to be truly prosperous. This belief is a master of self-sabotage. It's as if we have a prosperity thermostat set at a low familiar level. If, by a stroke of luck or extraordinary effort, our income or success exceeds that level, our nervous system panics. The new level feels unfamiliar, uncomfortable, dangerous. And our subconscious mind, whose main job is to keep us in the familiar and safe, will find, in a creative and often dramatic way, a way to get rid of the excess to return to its habitual state of Lack, we will make a disastrous investment. Just as our finances were improving, an unexpected family crisis or breakdown will arise that consumes our savings. We will lend money to someone we know will never pay it back, or we will simply lose the motivation and stop doing what was leading us to success. The stroke of unworthiness makes you feel guilty for receiving, uncomfortable with success, and leads you to unconsciously reject the opportunities that the universe presents to you. The stroke of struggle, the salt of effort. This stroke is what gives a bitter and exhausting flavor to our relationship with money. It is the belief, deeply rooted in the work ethic of the industrial age, that wealth must be earned by the sweat of your brow. It is the idea that prosperity is intrinsically linked to sacrifice, pain, effort, and struggle. This belief makes us distrust everything that comes easily. If an opportunity seems too good to be true, we sabotage it or pass it up, convinced that there must be a catch. If we find a path that brings us joy and prosperity at the same time, we feel a subtle guilt, as if we were cheating, as if it were not real work. We measure our worth by how many hours we work, not by the value we create. We take pride in being exhausted because we equate it with being productive and deserving. The stroke of struggle keeps us trapped in the linear equation of time for money. It blinds us to the most elegant truth of the universe, that creation, at its highest level, is not an act of brute force, but of flow and alignment. The greatest prosperity does not come to those who struggle the most, but to those who align with their purpose and allow value to flow through them with the least resistance. The stroke of fear, the guardian shadow. Finally, the entire fortress of poverty consciousness is protected by a wall guarded by the four guardians of fear. These fears, often unconscious, are what prevent us from desiring true abundance with our whole being. The fear of loss. For many, the terror of having great wealth and then losing it is worse than never having had it. The attachment to the comfort that money could give them creates such great anxiety that unconsciously they prefer not to play the game at all. They stay in a just enough to survive zone because it feels safer than the peaks and valleys of great wealth. The fear of responsibility. The belief that having a lot of money brings overwhelming pressure and complexity that we will not be able to handle. Fear of taxes, of advisors, of investment decisions, of managing wealth. Unconsciously, they believe they are not mature or smart enough to handle great prosperity, so they keep it at bay. The fear of judgment and rejection. The belief that if we become prosperous, people will envy us, criticize us, our friends will abandon us, or our family will see us differently. The fear of being excluded from the tribe is one of the deepest fears of the human psyche, and it often leads us to sabotage our own success to continue to fit in. The fear of corruption. The belief, often religious or spiritual, that money is the root of all evil. The belief that wealth is an evil force that will inevitably turn us into selfish, superficial, or unhappy people, and that it will lead us away from our spiritual path. The master of the codex does not lament the old wrong script. He knows that consciousness is the most potent eraser in the universe. He takes his pen, loads it with the golden ink of his new understanding, and prepares to draw a new symbol. He prepares to inscribe in the deepest part of his soul the true and sacred glyph of abundance. This is not an act of positive thinking. It is an act of counter-witchcraft. It is the deliberate and systematic application of the verses of the codex to transmute the strokes of lack into the golden lines of prosperity. We now enter the workshop. The first practice, the transmutation of the elements, applying the first verses. The initiate in the codex knows that to draw a new glyph, he must first purify the parchment. He must apply the fundamental laws of creation to neutralize the old energy before inscribing the new. This is the practice of elemental transmutation. Transmutation 1, from the echo of lack to the sound of abundance, the first verse. The master knows that the universe is an echo. To change the echo of scarcity, he must change the sound he emits. He begins to practice rigorous mental hygiene, becoming the sentinel at the door of his mind. The sentinel protocol. Every time he catches himself thinking a thought of scarcity, I can't afford it. Money is difficult. I'll never have enough. He does not fight it. Fighting a thought gives it energy. Instead, he performs a three-step process. Identify. He stops and recognizes the thought without judgment. Interesting. I am observing a thought of scarcity. This is the echo of the old program. Neutralize. With a deep breath, he withdraws his energy from the thought. He sees it as a passing cloud, not as his truth. Replace. He deliberately chooses and introduces a thought of a higher truth, a declaration of abundance. He doesn't have to believe it 100% at first. He simply introduces it as the new dominant sound. The truth is that my supply is infinite, and the universe always satisfies all my needs. Transmutation. 2. From the frequency of fear to the resonance of wealth, the second verse. He knows that thought is not enough. He must change the frequency, the music of the soul. He practices the art of deliberately generating the feeling of abundance, the frequency anchor protocol. He asks himself, how would I feel in my body if all my needs were met right now, with a great surplus? He identifies the root emotion. Is it peace, freedom, security, generosity? Once the emotion is identified, he uses the technique of the memory resonance chamber. He searches his past for a moment where he felt that pure emotion, even if it was not related to money, and relives it in his body. Once the vibration of peace or freedom is strong, he anchors that feeling to a physical gesture, like touching his thumb and index finger, or a keyword. Throughout the day, when he feels the frequency of scarcity returning, he uses his anchor to tune back in, quickly and effectively, to the resonance of wealth. Transmutation 3. From the eye of poverty to the eye of prosperity, the third verse. Finally, he directs the eye of his consciousness. He stops focusing his attention on the evidence of lack. He becomes a deliberate seeker of abundance, the abundant safari protocol. He gives himself a daily mission. During my morning walk, my commute to work, my lunch break, my only task is to find and silently name 20 examples of abundance around me. He starts hunting. The abundance of leaves on a single tree, the abundance of cars on the street, the abundance of products on store shelves, the abundance of clouds in the sky, the abundance of kindness in a smile. This practice forcefully retrains his perceptual filter. It forces his reticular activation system to stop scanning the world for proof of scarcity and to tune into the omnipresent truth of abundance. By observing abundance, he collapses it into his reality. The second practice, the inscription of the new glyph, the creation ritual. Now, with the clean parchment and the tuned consciousness, the scribe of abundance takes the tools he has learned in the previous chapters and begins to draw the new blueprint, to inscribe the new symbol in his imagination. This is the central ritual. Step 1. The preparation of the parchment, calm and coherence. The initiate enters his inner workshop. Through rhythmic breathing and the power pose, he calms his nervous system. He knows that the subconscious, the sacred parchment, must be smooth and receptive for the new ink to be etched with clarity. Step 2. The pen of imagination, forging the final scene. He creates a short, simple and potent scene that implies he is already immensely prosperous. He does not visualize a mountain of money, because that is the symbol, not the substance. He visualizes a scene from the end, one that evokes the feeling of wealth. Perhaps it is a first-person scene, looking at the online bank statement of a charity to which he has just made a significant donation, feeling the warmth of generosity in his chest. Perhaps it is a quiet conversation with a loved one, saying with a smile of deep relief, "Remember when we used to worry about money? It seems like another life." Perhaps it is the simple act of walking through a luxury store, not with longing but with a sovereign calm, knowing that he could buy anything he wanted, but feeling so whole that he needs nothing. Step 3. The ink of feeling, the emotional charge. He imbues this scene with the golden ink of emotion. He immerses himself with all his senses in the feeling of the wish fulfilled. He deliberately generates the 4 frequencies of abundance. Relief, the deep exhale of knowing the struggle is over. Freedom, the expansive feeling of having unlimited options, security. The deep-seated calm of knowing there will always be more than enough. Gratitude, the amen of the universe. The thankfulness for this reality that is already a fact in his heart. He holds this scene and this feeling in his mind until it feels more real. than his current circumstances. Step 4. The word of decree, the final seal. Finally, while still bathed in the emotion of his scene, he seals his creation with the power of the spoken word. He uses I am decrees that affirm his new economic identity. He stands in front of the mirror, looks into his eyes and declares with a quiet certainty, I am the embodiment of the infinite abundance of the source. Wealth, prosperity, and success are my birthright and my present reality. I am an open channel for the flow of money, opportunities, and value. Everything I touch turns to gold. My supply is inexhaustible, and it flows to me, through me, and from me in predictable and unpredictable ways. It is done. The anti-glyph of poverty has been erased, not by fighting it, but by making it irrelevant. In its place, with the systematic application of the verses of the codex, with the pen of your imagination, the ink of your feeling, and the word of your decree, you have inscribed in the depths of your soul the sacred and self-manifesting glyph of abundance. Chapter 9. The Harmony Bond. Before we can draw the new bond, we must first erase from our parchment the story we have been told, a powerful, seductive, and deeply flawed mythology about love. It is the story of the better half, the myth that we are inherently incomplete beings, wandering the world in search of our other half, that soulmate who exists somewhere out there, and whose mission is to find us, mend our cracks, and at last make us feel whole. We have been conditioned to see love as a search, an external search for a person, a feeling or a circumstance that will magically repair our wounds, fill our existential emptiness, and give us the happiness we lack. This perception turns love into a transaction, a market. We enter the love market and try to make ourselves more attractive, more successful, more interesting, not as an act of joyful self-expression, but to increase our market value and be able to buy or win the love of the desired person. From this consciousness of lack, the love life becomes a series of strategies, games, fears, and masks. Should I call or wait so I don't seem too needy? Am I being too intense or too distant? What version of myself should I show for them to like me? We become actors, playing a role we think the other wants to see, hiding our true vulnerabilities, our shadows, and our insecurities for fear that, if they see them, they will consider us unfit for the role and reject us. But the first verse of the codex, "The universe is an echo," reveals the fundamental and tragic error of this strategy. If you operate from an inner state of being incomplete, of needing someone to save you, the only person you can attract into your life, by the law of resonance, is another person who also feels incomplete and is looking for a savior. The result is not wholeness. It is codependence. It is the meeting of two voids trying to fill each other, a dance of two beggars demanding a treasure from each other that neither of them possesses. The forbidden secret. The alchemical truth about love is this: true, healthy, and lasting love is not something you find. It is an echo of the harmony you have first cultivated within your own being. The harmony bond is not a bridge you build to another person. It is the music you emit from your own healed and whole soul. And that music, by the infallible law of resonance, attracts other instruments that vibrate at the same beautiful frequency to create a symphony together, not from need, but from overflow, deciphering the dissonant bonds. The song of solitude, your love life, like your financial life, is a mirror. It reflects with relentless precision the state of your own consciousness. If your experience in relationships is a recurring pattern of conflict, betrayal, emotional distance, or loneliness, it's not bad luck. It's not because all men-women are the same, like it's because you are projecting that movie from an inner projector, loaded with the beliefs and vibrations of an unhealed love. Consciousness. To compose a new symphony, we must first identify the out-of-tune notes, the belief of unworthiness, the dissonant fundamental note. This is the foundation of all suffering in love. It is the deep and often unconscious root belief that I am not worthy of love. It is the stealthy feeling that there is something fundamentally broken, wrong, or insufficient in us, and that if someone were to see our true selves, with all our flaws, our shadows, and our neuroses, they would flee in terror. This belief is a magnet for relationships that validate it. It makes us subconsciously attract partners who are emotionally unavailable, critical, or even abusive, because their behavior aligns perfectly with our own belief that we don't deserve a healthy, easy, and respectful love. It turns us into people pleasers, people who sacrifice their own needs, their own boundaries and their own truth to try to earn the other's love. We believe from this wound that love is not a gift to be received, but a salary that we must earn through sacrifice and self-denial. It makes us sabotage good relationships. When, at last, someone loves us in a healthy way and treats us with unconditional respect, a cognitive dissonance is created. The love we receive conflicts directly with our fundamental belief of unworthiness. And our system, uncomfortable with this contradiction, often creates drama, looks for flaws in the other person, or pushes them away until finally they get tired and leave. Confirming our original prophecy, "See, I knew it was too good to be true. I knew I wasn't worthy of love." The vibration of fear, the melody of chaos. On top of the belief of unworthiness, the frequency of fear is built. Fear in relationships manifests in many forms, but all are born from the same source: the lack of an inner center of security, the belief that our emotional survival depends on something or someone external. Fear of intimacy. This is the fear of being truly seen. We long for connection, but we are terrified of the vulnerability it requires. We maintain a safe distance, wear masks of perfection, humor, or indifference. We hide our darkest and most fragile parts. This fear leads us to superficial relationships, where even though we are accompanied, we never feel truly known and therefore continue to feel lonely. Fear of abandonment. This is the terror of being left, of having the external source of love and security taken away from us. This fear is born from the belief that we cannot survive on our own. It turns us into dependent, jealous, and controlling people. We suffocate the relationship with our neediness, constantly monitoring our partner, looking for proof of their loyalty, until our own energy of fear and control creates the very abandonment we feared so much. Fear of being engulfed. This is the opposite pole, but it is born from the same lack of center. It is the fear of losing our own identity, our freedom in the fusion with the other. This fear makes us sabotage intimacy when it becomes too deep, create distance just when the connection is strongest, and run from anything that looks like commitment, the projection of the past, the ghost music. Finally, the taste of our present relationships is often soured by the salt of past wounds that have not been healed. Every broken heart, every betrayal, every disappointment that has not been completely processed, forgiven, and released becomes a filter, a dirty lens through which we look at our current partner. We stop seeing the person in front of us. Instead, we project onto them the ghost of our ex or even our parents. We react to the present situation not for what it is, but for what it reminds us of. If a previous partner was unfaithful, we interpret a simple text message from a friend on our current partner's phone as irrefutable proof of betrayal. The body goes into panic mode, activating the same pain response as in the past. If one of our parents was controlling, we interpret a simple suggestion from our partner, maybe we should save a little more this month, as an attempt to dominate us and restrict our freedom. Unhealed resentment turns us into archaeologists of pain, always searching in the present for evidence to validate the wounds of the past. It is impossible to build a healthy relationship on the cracked foundations of unresolved grudges. The first practice, the dissolution of the past, the purification of the parchment. The initiate in the codex knows that he cannot draw a new, beautiful bond on a parchment stained with the dried tears and smudged ink of past wounds. Any new drawing would be distorted by the old marks. The first work, therefore, is purification. It is the act of consciously releasing the energetic chains that keep you tied to past relationships. His practice is that of karmic liberation. The master knows that resentment, grudges, and guilt are an invisible but incredibly strong energetic chain that keeps him tied to the person who hurt him and to the event that caused him pain. Forgiveness, therefore, is not an act of naive kindness toward the other. It is an act of selfish, sovereign liberation for oneself. It is taking quantum scissors and cutting the rope that keeps you anchored in a port of suffering. The ritual, the ceremony of liberation, the invocation. In the solitude of your workshop, light a candle to symbolize the light of your consciousness. Take your journal. Choose a person or a situation from the past that still causes you pain or resentment. The catharsis. Write a letter to that person. It is not a letter you are going to send. It is for you. Put onto the paper, with brutal honesty and without censorship, all your pain, all your anger, all your disappointment. Don't hold back. Allow the toxic energy you have been storing in your body to come out through the pen and be deposited onto the paper. The radical compassion. Once the poison is out, pause, breathe. Now try for a moment to see the wound in the other person. Not to justify their behavior, but to understand it. Ask yourself, from what fear or what pain did this person act? What unhealed wound in them led them to hurt me? This step pulls you out of the victim role and places you in that of the wise observer, the decree of liberation. Finally, perform the act of power. Stand up, hold the letter in your hand and read a decree of liberation aloud. You can use these words: I, your name, in this act of sovereignty, acknowledge the pain this experience caused me. And now I choose to release it. Name of the person: I release you from the debt I believed you owed me. I release you from my judgment and my resentment. I cut this energetic chain between us. I free myself from the victim role and reclaim my power. Our lesson together is over. I am free, you are free. It is done, the transmutation. As a final symbolic act, safely burn the letter. As you watch the paper be consumed by the fire, visualize how the energetic chain dissolves into light. This ritual, repeated for every significant wound from the past, is like cleansing the parchment of your soul, leaving it clear, serene, and ready for a new and beautiful script. The second practice, the inscription of self-love, drawing the first circle. Once the parchment is clean, the scribe of the heart must draw the first and most important of the glyphs, the one that serves as the basis for all others, that of self-love. He knows that the universe can only reflect the love he gives himself. You cannot receive validation from the world that you deny yourself. The ritual, the soul mirror. This practice is simple, confrontational, and deeply transformative. The master stands in front of his own reflection every day. At first, the practice is difficult, uncomfortable. The inner critic, the guardian of the old belief of unworthiness, shouts its insults and points out every flaw. But the initiate persists. Day after day, he looks into his own eyes beyond the surface and begins a healing dialogue. He doesn't just mechanically repeat, I love you. He talks to the wounded child that resides within him. He gives it the recognition and security it never received. He says to it, I see you. I see your pain and your fear, and I am here for you now. You are valuable. You are worthy of love. You are enough, exactly as you are. I will protect you. I will honor you. I love you unconditionally. He also practices self-forgiveness. I forgive you for the mistakes you made when you didn't know how to do better. I forgive you for having abandoned yourself. Now I am coming home to you. The alchemy. This is not an act of vanity. It is an act of sacred reparenting. It is the act of withdrawing your beggar's bowl from the world and becoming the inexhaustible source of love and validation you once desperately sought externally. With each of these sessions, the belief in your own unworthiness weakens. The inner void begins to fill, not with the uncertain love of another, but with your own unconditional love. The harmony bond with yourself becomes more solid and more brilliant. You are becoming, vibrationally, the person you want to attract. The third practice, the assumption of being loved, reading the new book. With the parchment cleansed of the past and the glyph of self-love inscribed in his heart, the master performs the final act of magic. He does not go out into the world to search for, attract, or manifest love. That still comes from lack. He assumes it. His practice is that of imaginary embodiment. The initiate does not visualize a specific person, as that would limit the universe and be born of the ego. Instead, he focuses on the feeling of being already in a perfect, harmonious, and divinely orchestrated relationship. The embodiment protocol for night. In the stillness of the night, in the sacred portal of the drowsy state, the master does not feel lonely. He enters his mental theater and dresses in the garment of the beloved self. He feels with an imaginary certainty the comforting presence of an ideal partner beside him in bed. He does not put a face on them. He feels their energy. He hears in his inner ear the words of a conversation full of tenderness, respect, humor, and admiration. He feels on his skin the warmth of a hug, the touch of a hand holding his with absolute love and security. And most importantly, he bathes in the emotion that all this generates, a deep sense of peace, security, connection, wholeness, and overwhelming gratitude. He falls asleep in the embrace of his assumption. He is creating the memory of the future of a perfect love. He is emitting the clear, coherent, and potent electromagnetic signal that, by the law of resonance, must attract a perfect physical reflection into his life. He is no longer searching. He has become the vibration of what he seeks, and therefore the universe must bring it to him. The harmony bond is not a contract you sign with another. It is the echo of the peace you have signed with yourself. The quality of your relationships is a direct reflection of the quality of the relationship you have with your own soul. Chapter 10. The Scribe becomes the script. We have arrived at the final verse, the 10th, the one that is not written on any page, because it can only be read in the silent mirror of one's own soul. We have reached the moment of final integration, the great alchemy, where the lead of effort is transmuted into the gold of being. The moment when the apprentice's journey ends, not because he has reached a destination, but because he has realized that he is the way. It is the moment when the scribe becomes the script, the dissolution of the creator, the end of separation. Throughout this codex, we have used the metaphor of the creator, the architect, the magician. It is a useful and necessary metaphor for the mind that is awakening because it gives it a sense of agency, of power, of sovereignty over a reality that once seemed chaotic and external. But at the peak of mastery, even this powerful identity must be transcended. As long as there is an I that is trying to manifest something, a subtle but fundamental separation still exists. There is still an artist and a canvas. There is still a scribe and a parchment. There is still a magician and a universe to be enchanted. And in this separation, however subtle, resides the last vestige of effort, doubt, and duality. The final realization, the one that dissolves the last shadows, is that there is no you who uses the laws of the universe. You are the laws of the universe in expression. The universe is not an external entity to which you give commands. It is a mirror that shows you who you are. Power is not a tool you wield. It is the very essence of your own consciousness. The laws you have studied are not external rules you must follow. They are the description of the physics of your own being. When this truth is embodied, when it ceases to be an intellectual concept and becomes a lived experience, effort ceases. The practice of manifestation, like scaffolding that is no longer needed once the building is complete, becomes superfluous. Why? Because you no longer need to try to create a reality that corresponds to your being. Your being, in its pure, aligned, and authentic state, is the creative force. Manifestation ceases to be a deliberate act and becomes the natural overflow of your own essence. In the same way that the sun does not try to radiate light and heat, it simply radiates light and heat because it is its nature to be a sun. The rose does not struggle to emit its fragrance. It simply emits it because it is its nature to be a rose. And you, by reclaiming your true nature, stop doing magic and you become magic itself. Life as a living codex. The 3 jewels of sovereignty, to live from this state of unity, is not a mystical experience removed from the world, reserved for monks on mountaintops. On the contrary, it is the most practical, most effective, and most joyful way to live a human life. This state of mastery, of being the living codex, is manifested through 3 jewels, 3 fundamental qualities that permeate every aspect of your existence, like the perfume of the rose. Unconditional. Peace, the inner ocean, the first and most fundamental quality of the master, is an unshakable peace. It is not the superficial peace that comes from everything in life being perfect and under control. It is the deep peace that remains even when everything on the surface seems to be falling apart. It is the calm of the deep ocean, which is not affected by the storm raging on the surface. This peace is born from de-identification. The master has practiced being the silent witness for so long that it has become his natural state. He experiences thoughts, but he knows he is not his thoughts. He observes them as clouds crossing the vast sky of his consciousness without clinging to any. He experiences emotions, from the most expansive joy to the deepest sadness, but he knows he is not his emotions. He feels them fully, allowing the energy to flow through him without resistance, like the wind that passes through a canyon. He experiences a body with its pleasures and pains, but he knows he is not his body. He inhabits it as a sacred temple, but his identity is not confined to it. His identity, his true home, is anchored in pure consciousness, in the I Am, which is by nature silent, immutable, and eternally at peace. From this center, the volatility of the external world loses its power to disturb him. He is no longer a leaf at the mercy of the wind. He is the silent space in which the wind blows. Effortless action, Wu Wei, the river's flow. The second quality of the sovereign life is the radical transformation of action. Life, for the lower levels of consciousness, is a struggle and effort, a constant battle against circumstances. From the peak of consciousness, you discover the Taoist principle of Wu Wei, which is often translated as non-action, or more precisely, as effortless action. This does not mean laziness or passivity. The master can be incredibly active and productive. It means that his actions no longer arise from the anxious planning, control, and willpower of his ego. They emerge spontaneously, intuitively, and perfectly appropriately from the intelligence of the present moment. You stop being the rower who desperately fights against the river's current. You let go, and you become the current itself. The solution to a complex problem does not arrive after hours of forced analysis, but appears as a download of clarity in a moment of stillness. The perfect opportunity is not the result of a desperate search, but of a casual encounter that occurs when you follow an intuitive impulse. The right words in a difficult conversation are not rehearsed, but flow through you from a place of presence and authenticity. Effortless action is the natural consequence of listening to and trusting the inner oracle, the guidance of your intuition. You stop imposing your agenda on the universe, and you become the perfect dance partner of infinite intelligence. 3. Playful creation, Lila, the divine game. Finally, the master transforms his perspective on life itself. For the ego, life is a very serious matter. It is full of problems to be solved, goals to be reached, a reputation to be protected. The weight of the world rests on its shoulders. For the unified self, life is revealed as Lila, the Sanskrit term for the divine game. The initiate understands that universal consciousness did not create the universe out of a grave need or a solemn purpose. It created it out of the pure joy of self-expression, out of the joy of playing hide-and-seek with itself in an infinity of forms and experiences. And upon realizing this, your own life ceases to be a tragic drama or an obstacle course and becomes a sacred game. You play your roles in the world, as a parent, a professional, an artist, with total excellence and presence, but with an inner lightness, knowing they are just that, roles in a divine game. This perspective frees you from the tyranny of personal importance. You no longer take yourself so seriously. It gives you the freedom to be audacious, to be creative, to experiment. It gives you the ability to fail with a smile, understanding that it is not a verdict on your worth, but simply an interesting move on the game board that teaches you a new lesson, and it allows you above all to enjoy the process, to savor each moment of creation, not for what it will give you, but for the simple and pure joy of playing. We have glimpsed the summit. We have seen the 3 jewels of the crown of sovereignty, the peace that does not depend on circumstances, the action that flows effortlessly from intuition, and the creation that is born from the sacred joy of the divine game. But how do you live from this summit? What is a day in the life of someone who has become the living codex, the embodiment of this forbidden wisdom? The answer is the final and most liberating paradox of all. The master's practice is no longer a series of techniques that he does in the morning or at night. His entire life, every breath, every thought, every interaction, becomes a living practice. The techniques you have learned with such care, visualization, affirmations, rituals, were the scaffolding, the mold, the necessary guide to build the building of your new consciousness. But once the building is finished and its foundations are solid, the scaffolding can be removed. The practice is no longer something you do. It has dissolved into who you are. The dissolution of technique, from effort to being. The initiate at this final level no longer clings to techniques, in the same way that a master musician no longer thinks about the position of his fingers on the strings. Why? Because he has practiced them with such devotion, with such consistency, that they have descended from his conscious mind into his nervous system, into the memory of his cells. They have become automatic, subconscious, the new default setting of his being. He no longer needs to practice visualization at a specific time. His mind, by default, now sees the potential and the solution in every situation. The Creator's eye has become his natural way of perceiving the world. He no longer needs to repeat affirmations in a forced way. His inner dialogue, by habit, has become a flow of thoughts of power, gratitude, and certainty. His word is naturally creative. He no longer needs to try to feel an elevated emotion. His heart, having been trained in coherence and having healed its wounds of unworthiness, naturally resides in a state of peace, appreciation, and love. The golden ink flows constantly from his pen. The conscious effort, which was so necessary during training, dissolves into a state of effortless being. You have stopped being the pilot who constantly adjusts the controls, and you have become the airplane itself, flying in perfect harmony with the currents of the air, the embodiment of the verses, life as the manifested codex. The Master's life is the living embodiment, moment by moment, of the verses we have deciphered together. He lives the first verse, the echo. The Master no longer analyzes the echo. He has become a song of pure harmony. His state of being is so consistently coherent, his note is so clear and stable, that the echo the universe returns to him is, predictably, one of grace, beauty, and flow. Synchronicities cease to be surprising events and become the natural rhythm of his day. The fluid conversation he has with the universe he recognizes as his own reflection. He lives the second verse, the frequency. He no longer tries to raise his vibration. His devotion to inner peace and causeless joy keeps him anchored in a high frequency naturally. He becomes a tuning fork for harmony. His simple presence, charged with the coherence of his heart, often raises the frequency of those around him, without him saying or doing anything. His calm calms others, his confidence inspires confidence. His being becomes an act of vibrational service. He lives the third verse, the Creator's eye. The eye of his consciousness is always open, always present. He lives in a state of observational awareness, knowing that his focused attention is constantly shaping his world. But he no longer does it with the effort of a magician trying to bend reality. He does it with the grace of a gardener who knows that simply by casting his loving gaze on a plant he helps it to grow. He chooses what to observe and therefore what to create, with the simple and serene choice of where he places his gaze. He lives as the Scribe, verses 4, 5 and 6. His imagination, feeling, and word are permanently aligned in a creative symphony. He does not need a formal ritual to decree. His entire life is a decree. Every thought is a brushstroke of his vision. Every emotion is the color that gives it life, and every word is the seal that confirms it. He speaks with impeccable economy and precision, knowing that every syllable is a spell. His being becomes a living work of art, a walking manifestation of the power, wisdom, and love of the universe. He lives beyond time, verse 7. The Master dwells fully in the eternal now. He has healed and revised his past so deeply that it no longer has power over him. It is simply the library of his wisdom. He has assumed his future so completely that he no longer feels anxiety about it. It is simply the book he is choosing to read. He knows that his only point of power is this moment, and he lives it with a fullness, a presence, and an intensity that the uninitiated, trapped between yesterday and tomorrow, cannot even imagine. The subtle disciplines of mastery. Although formal techniques dissolve, the Master practices more subtle disciplines. The disciplines of being, the discipline of memory. The Master practices active remembrance. In moments of challenge, when the illusion of the material world threatens to re-hypnotize him, his first action is to remember who he is. He remembers that he is not the wave, but the ocean. He remembers that he is not the character, but the author. He remembers that the laws of the codex are the truth, and the appearances of the senses are the shadow. The discipline of joy. The Master cultivates joy not as a goal, but as a compass. He constantly asks himself, where is the joy? What action, what thought, what choice would align me most with the feeling of expansion and joyful expression? He follows the trail of joy, knowing that it is the GPS of his soul, guiding him infallibly along the path of his highest expression, the discipline of surrender, Finally, the master lives in a state of continuous surrender. Not the surrender of defeat, but the surrender of absolute trust. Having aligned his being, he trusts that universal intelligence will orchestrate the details in a way much more magnificent than his logical mind could conceive. He lets go of control. He relaxes into the flow, and in that surrender, he finds true freedom and effortless power. The codex has been deciphered. The journey through its verses has concluded, but the final revelation, the twist at the heart of the initiation, is that there was nothing to decipher, only to remember. The knowledge was not in this manuscript. It was and always has been in you, the reader. The codex is not a book of paper and ink. It is you. You are no longer the scribe who tries to shape reality. You are the script. You are the sacred word, the unique vibration, the divine story that the source has chosen to tell. Now go and live this truth, not as a belief, but as your embodied reality. Be the peace you seek. Be the love you long for. Be the wisdom you have always been. The journey is not over. It has just begun, and the entire universe celebrates your awakening. We have reached the end of the verses. You have journeyed from powerlessness to mastery, from the reader of the codex to the scribe, and finally to the realization that you are the script itself. The forbidden codex, the hidden manuscript, has revealed all its secrets to you. We broke the seal of illusion together, only to discover that the universe is an echo of our being. We learned to tune the frequency of our soul and to use the eye of the Creator to shape reality. You took the pen of imagination, loaded it with the ink of feeling, and sealed your creations with the verb of decree. You have learned to decipher time and to draw the glyphs of abundance and harmony into the fabric of your life. And now, with reverence, we close the pages of this ancient knowledge. But here lies the final revelation, the secret that the codex keeps until its last page. The truth is that this audiobook, these words, were never the source of your power. They were only a mirror, an echo designed to remind you of the power that has always resided within you. The true forbidden codex, the true sacred manuscript, is not made of ink and parchment. It is your own life, and from this moment on it is an open book. Every day you wake up is a blank page. Every thought you hold is a sentence. Every emotion you embody is the color of the ink. Every action you take is a stroke of the pen. Every year you live is a chapter in your own magnificent epic. You are no longer the reader, trying to decipher someone else's destiny. You are the author. The laws you have learned are not rules you must follow. They are the tools of your trade, the instruments with which you now compose the symphony of your existence. Your journey of learning does not end here. Your masterpiece begins now. Upon waking each morning, you will no longer ask what the day will bring. You will approach the blank page of your next 24 hours, and with the sovereign calm of a master, you will ask yourself the only question that matters. What magnificent story will I write today? If this codex has opened your eyes and awakened the scribe within you, we invite you to continue this exploration. Subscribe to our channel, Path of Knowledge, for more wisdom that liberates. Like this video as a declaration that you are ready to write your own story. Share this knowledge with someone who needs to remember that they hold the pen in their own hand. Thank you for your time, for your courage, and for the brave decision to stop reading life and, at last, start writing it.